We want to go ahead and get started. So rude. Did you look forward too? All right, guys, before we get started, I'm going to ask you to please pay attention to all the speakers that we have today. They took a lot of time out of their day to be here, and so please be listening. All right, howdy, Senate. We only have one more meeting before Christmas on December 3rd, which is really exciting. Please be thinking about any legislation you want to pass before the end of the year. I know we have a lot going on right now, but with that, we're going to go ahead and move into a period of opening roll call led by Pro Temp Tucker. When I call your name, please say howdy. SPG Mallory.
Howdy.
Chief Justice Racefield.
Howdy.
Speaker Justino. Howdy. Chair Horton.
Howdy.
Chair Wright.
Howdy.
Chair Kim.
Howdy.
Chair Williams.
Howdy.
Chair Chu.
Howdy.
Chair Purcell.
Howdy.
Chair Hurd.
Howdy.
Chair Teets. Senator Bond. Senator Owen. Senator Smith.
Howdy.
Senator Allen. Howdy. Senator Jackson. Senator Adway. Howdy. Senator Healy. Senator Richards.
Howdy.
Senator Schmidt. Senator Austin Williams.
Howdy.
Senator Yost. Senator Sanders.
Howdy.
Senator Pavanko. Howdy. Senator Lamons. Howdy. Senator Smith.
Howdy.
Senator Westlake. Howdy. Senator Ben Williams. Senator Long. Senator Grimm.
Howdy.
Senator Alvarez. Howdy. Senator Burnside. Howdy. Senator Hughes. Senator Willis. Senator Von Wupperfeld.
Howdy.
Senator Batten. Howdy. Senator Adamek.
Howdy.
Senator Becker. Senator Brown. Senator Clark. Howdy. Senator Fleener. Senator Flores. Howdy. Senator Garcia. Howdy. Senator Glover. Senator Hall. Senator Hicks. Howdy. Senator Hovey. Senator Kaiser. Howdy. Senator Murray. Senator Cheswick. Senator Poe. Senator Sanchez. Senator Steele. Senator Hargrove.
Howdy.
Senator Maynard. Senator Bissoni.
Howdy.
Senator Bradley.
Howdy.
Senator Cho. Senator Dow. Senator Medvedev,
Aye.
Senator Shutt, Senator Wells, Senator Wu,
Aye.
Senator Vanderheiden, Senator Wilkins, Senator Portman, Senator Knott,
Aye.
Senator Lambert,
Aye.
Senator Evil,
Aye.
Senator Masters,
Aye.
Senator, Vijay Mendez,
Howdy.
Vijay Morrison,
Howdy.
Vijay Smith,
Howdy.
Vijay Strobel.
Howdy.
All right, with that, we will now move into the invocation and pledges of allegiance, led by Bill Bradley on behalf of his body.
Would you bow your head, please? Dear Lord, I just want to thank you for this day that we all get to be here in a very packed room. I love to see it. Lord, I'd like to ask that you would provide us strength and you provide us wisdom and knowledge. Just as we finish the semester, this is a pretty hard time for a lot of people, crunching down and everything. So I just ask that you would provide that knowledge, strength, and wisdom for them. But I'd also like to ask that you would let anybody who's struggling or going through anything, let them know that you're there. Give them a sign or just, help them out. Lord, I'd like to ask that this meeting would be good, that we'd be cordial, and that you'd get out of here on time. In son's name we pray. Amen. Right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, indivisible.
All right, thank you for that. We thank you for your time. With that, we'll now move into the conclusion statement and Aggie Honor Code led by our long serving Senator Care Patel.
The Texas A&M University Student Senate represents all students in order to enhance the Texas A&M experience within our university and communities through research, legislation, and advocacy in accordance with the core values of our institution. And Aggie does not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do.
With that, we will now move into a period of open forum. Pro Tem Tucker, do we have anyone from the forum? You have a motion. Get your motion.
Pro Tem Tucker, I move to advice.
Being that a motion has been made and seconded, it is undebatable and amendable as to time and will require a 2/3 majority vote. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections to extending the time by 8 minutes? Being none, this motion does pass.
All right, good evening. I don't know, you guys, sometimes I forget. All right, so my name is Brian Woods. I'm the city manager for the city of College Station. I appreciate you guys having me here. I've got a little bit of time. I'm gonna give you a few things and then I would love it if you would ask questions. I really want to answer what you have. I will go over a little bit. College Station, if you don't know, is a council manager form of government. That basically means that I'm the CEO and the CAO. Council has the ultimate authority, but I run the organization, right? So that's basically how it works. Council manager form of government is how most big cities are in the state. We have about 1,000 people. We have about a $500 million a year budget, so probably much bigger than you actually realize. And something to think about if you guys sitting in this room want to do some good. I can tell you local government is a great place to do that. I'm coming up on my 7th year as city manager. Also is kind of a long time when you're in the city manager game. So hopefully this is not the end of my time. I'll be here next year, but it's a little bit college football coaches. So I've been blessed to be here for 7 years. Hopefully we'll be here longer. Love the community. I'm an engineer by training, came up through construction, and then in my spare time, I'm an Edwards Air Officer, civil engineering corps. So in that 7 years, I spent about a year of it deployed in the Middle East and Northern Iraq and some other places. So great community for that. Many of you also thinking about how to serve military, great way to do that. So So a couple of things I want to talk to you guys about, and then I'll again open it up. See any questions you have about city, interaction with students, any of that. One, want to thank you for what you're doing. I will tell you, and I should introduce Ross Brady, my chief of staff, who is all things Aggie. So he, balances out my non-Agginess. Well, thank you guys for what you're doing. I will say we always joke that like when I was 20 and 22, I was not doing it. So you're ahead of the game already. And I want to talk to you a little bit about, or maybe give you some unsolicited advice and then open it up to your questions about this stuff. So you were sitting here, you were representing people in your school. Hopefully you're doing it for that and not for the resume. Great if it's on your resume, but you should take representing people and serving people really seriously. And I bet you guys do. And I try to make sure that you guys know that when you live in a college town, there are all sorts of functional things you can do to be part of the government, right? We have a really good history, at least since I've been here, of interaction with student government. You guys have been willing to put out a lot of effort, both in meetings, government council meetings, organizing things, things that got played here. All the work you guys have done over the years, that's really important. Another thing you really need to do is you got to vote, right? Seems like that's a foregone conclusion, but you'd be surprised how many people in college in general don't vote where they go to school. And I'm going to tell you, you should vote not only because it affects you, but you are sitting in seats, both as students and as representatives of those students, for people who will be here for many, many years after you, right? So that's almost more important. If something isn't going great for you, at some point you're going to have the option whether you stay here or leave and go off somewhere else. Someone else is coming after you. So you're in charge of representing those people. And the other reason it's really important that you vote is because you can make a lot of noise and make really good arguments and try to convince people. And if you don't vote, they won't take you seriously and they won't take people behind you seriously, right? So I will give you the example. A few years ago, students got together and made a big deal about keeping a voting site at the MSC, right? It's really important for a lot of reasons, not just for you guys. There's a lot of people who work at this school who that's their best opportunity to vote as well, right? A bunch of the people who made that presentation to the county, we looked them up. Most of them not registered to vote, right? Not a good look, guys. So make sure that when you were doing these things, one, you're not just doing it because you're up here kind of like learning how things work. You have a real impact. Two, that you're doing it for other people, right? That you're representing the folks that you're here to represent, including yourself. And three, that you're following through, or voting or anything else. You actually do what it is you say you're going to do. And that is how people will pay attention to you now and for the rest of your life. All right. So let me stop there and see if anybody has any questions.
All right.
Anything at all.
With that, our presenter is now open for a question and answer. Do you guys see any questions for the presenter? I see Senator Vivanco.
Howdy, Senator Vivanco, Bush School. First of all, I'd like to thank you so much for being here. Really do appreciate it. Obviously, everyone here is interested in government, so we really appreciate that time, energy, and effort you put into this really great city that many of us like to call home. How can we show our thanks to the residents of College Station as we are working residents here, and there are obviously so many more people who are here now.
Yeah, good question. First time, the first one hasn't been like, what's the deal with over before? So great question. I think this school does tremendous work in the community. And the biggest thing I will say is get out there and meet people. One of the things that happened recently, if you ever lived no more than 4, or the tail end of it was the discussion about parking. Students were very involved, but a lot of students came to that meeting. And if there's one thing I can say is really beneficial for you all, and I would say the same thing to any other residents, is be around other people. For goodness sakes, most bad things happen when you're not actually having to talk to somebody directly, right? Like everybody is tougher, meaner, smarter, nastier when you're not having those discussions. So actually the thing you can do the most for everybody is just be around them, because people normally don't like people, but they really like individual people, right? And so when people start saying, well, I have problems with students, or I have problems, when you guys are around them and they see how intelligent you are, how dedicated you are, what you're willing to do for them, that's honestly the best thing you can do. So anytime you have a chance to interact, whether it's through city government or volunteer effort, which again, school is really known for, or just generally in your neighborhoods, meeting your neighbors and stuff, I think that's actually the best possible way. You also have the opportunity. You are a resident of College Station, right? So, and don't think just because you're here 4 or 5 years, 6 if you're more like me or something, that you're not a permanent resident. So I know, I appreciate you saying it that way, but I think you gotta think of yourself as a permanent resident. I tell everybody, when you're in the military, you know how long you are out of town when you're in the military? 2 or 3 years, right? But you don't think of yourself as not a permanent resident. So think about yourself as permanent residents that go out and interact with them. But appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Madam Speaker. I'm going
I
to extend the time period question and answer for 10 minutes.
Thank you.
think that a motion has been made and seconded. It is undebatable and amendable as to time and will require 2/3 majority vote. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections to the motion? Being none, this motion does pass. With that, I have Senator Lance.
Oh. How do you think they're managing at health science? What are some ways that like students can compromise kind of with the city to find middle ground, you know, issues like the street parking and things like that?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I would say in general, what I try to tell folks is, one, anytime you make decisions based on data, that's good. And, I should preface, I am not a politician, if you can't tell, right? My job is to run government. Most times, if there's an issue with 2 sides of it, each side probably thinks I'm on the upstick, right? So I try to stay pretty neutral. But, I think the best things you can do are, again, one, be willing to meet and talk to people about it, right? Like that's another thing, just larger issue in our country and probably the world is when we go to our corners and we're not willing to talk, that becomes a problem. Use that, right? And I would say this maybe applies less to students, but I think applies well to everybody is good governance is normally governance that applies to everyone, right? So if I heard one thing a lot about the unrelated, right? It's that, well, we have these rules and these rules apply to everyone. When we make rules apply to only one type of person, whatever that is, it just does not go well, right? So I think on the flip side for students, trying to understand what the concerns may be. And I think in some degree, just what everybody can do, understand that you do have an impact, right? A lot of it positive, but some of it may not be. So this great school that's here that does a lot of great things for the economy also drives prices of things up that has a negative impact for some people. So be willing to acknowledge that there could be an issue, but I think trying to stick to, again, facts and data and looking at how do we do things that are holistically done versus like, well, we want things that are good for students, or we don't want things that are bad for students. And I would give the same advice to anybody else in anywhere. Look at what applies to everyone is good for everyone, and that's your best.
With that, I have Chair Chu.
Chair Houston, services, thank you for the presentation. I have a question that most people probably maybe find in this room, but whenever whenever the Bitcoin mining facility was being argued about, what did you think about it? How do you see the growth of College Station inviting institutions like that?
Yeah, so clarify, not Bitcoin mining is a data, but know what you mean. So here's what I was saying in from my place, right? So you're given as a city employee through the council or through the city a task, like, hey, we need to bring more economic development. In that case, we have a site that was slated for industrial. It's been there for a long time, right? So I think I don't necessarily come down on one side or other of any issue. Despite, if you Google that, by the way, in my name, you'll find all kinds of stuff. I think one of the things that should show you that there was so much bad information. A lot of it unintentional, right? So even if someone comes up and they're saying something to you, it may even be, in some cases, it's hateful or wrong. You've got to try to look through that and say, all right, but these are people that have legitimate concerns, even if they could be addressed, they have legitimate concerns. That's what we're here for. And in some cases, people led them astray purpose, which is really tough. So I think one of the challenges you have in local government and government is how you get folks in a room and say, it's okay if we disagree, but let's try to figure out what the actual facts are of what we're doing. And the thing that my police chief has always said, that I think is great, is assume good intent by the other party, right? So, okay, if somebody doesn't want this, let me assume that they don't want it for good reasons. And if someone else wants it, let me assume they want it for good reasons. I think without going into the whole ball of wax, understanding what you're willing to do as a community, what your community is willing to do is really important. So that land has been owned by the city for 30 years, right? So You can say, hey, look, this thing is supposed to have been industrial for 30 years. So what's the problem now? Or you can say, we started this 30 years ago. Things are a little bit different, right? So maybe we need to think about it. Somewhere in the middle of that is where the balance is. And I think so many things are oversimplified or made absolutes, right? You're either good if you like this or good if you don't. And the reality is they're just tough decisions. It would have brought tons of tax revenue to the city, right? Which I don't get a percentage of it. What happens is that lowers your taxes for everybody. So there are lots of good things that could come to it. But it was gonna impact people that lived around it, right? So they had a legitimate concern too. And the whole community had a concern. So I think the best thing you can do, and where I land on is you try to bring things forward that have a benefit potentially for citizens, and then you get out there and have a debate about it. I wish, going backwards, although we did that project just like we did many other economic development projects, I wish we'd gone about it in a different way so we could have had maybe better debate about it. But I will also tell you that I am not afraid to bring those things forward. Because one of the things that can happen in your career, and it will if you do your job right, you're gonna end up having to choose between what's better for you and what's better for your community or who you're serving, right? And in my job, our government is run pretty well. We can kind of just lay back and let it be, and that would probably be better for me, but it wouldn't necessarily be better for the community. Because then at some point in the future, when the next people come forward, if they have issues with what their taxes are, if they have issues with what's being developed somewhere, and it's just because I took the easy way out, then we have a problem. So I think the biggest thing I would say is on any of these issues, trying to make sure that you have enough public involvement that they feel comfortable, where they can have a real debate and that people understand that there are very, very rarely simple solutions. Things are complex. All the easy stuff has been done, right? Nobody, if somebody tells you, why don't you just, that is the first clue that they may not understand the whole scope of the problem. So I don't have a feeling one way or the other on it. My biggest concern with the whole thing is that there was a ton of really bad information put out there and that it became really, really bad. And I will just tell you guys personally, people came after me personally over this and said things that were absolutely untrue, that don't even really make a lot of sense. And ironically, I was on Navy duty, so I wasn't even here while it was happening. I was up there doing that. I even kind of, I just remember it would be always something I remember. I read like the worst email the morning of 9/11. I'm in my Navy uniform. I'd just done a run and I'm like reading this email about somebody going off on me about it. So that part isn't great. And I not only look at that as like, oh, I wish that person had done it. I go back and say, all right, if this is where we are, knowing we live in a good community with lots of good people, how did we get here and how do I go back in my role and try to make it work?
Senator Willis.
Senator Willis, on campus caucus, I apologize for coming in halfway through your presentation, but thank you for your time being here today. I'm curious, what are some of the good things about managing a college town and what are some of the challenges?
Yeah, so there's so many good things, so many great things. I always kind of joke that this is my first job as city manager.
Take your motion.
Motion to extend the period of question answer by 5 minutes.
Okay.
Seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, it is undebatable and amendable as to time and will require a 2/3 majority. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections to the motion? Seeing none, this motion does pass.
All right, try to be quick with this, appreciate it. So it's great. So you got tons of great people that are really involved. You got really, really smart people all around you, right? I always say not only are the people that move here to teach and work around it, really engaged and smart. But like when you go to HEB, I'm always like the person who is like helping me bag my groceries is probably like gonna be a surgeon someday. Like, so you've got a really great environment to be in, especially with Texas A&M being here. You've got the service, you've got, A&M is different. So I think that is really cool. I also feel really responsible. I always say as a city, I grew up in Baytown, Texas. We made petroleum. You're familiar with that, right? What do we do in College Station? I feel like our job is to create leaders that go out into the world, right? So we try to set up an environment in this city and with this university to grow you guys up, get you out of here without getting stupid MIPs or DUIs or any of the other stuff that happen. Help you learn about government and the way things are, and then you're going to either stay here and do great things for us, or you're going to go out in the world and do really great things. So I feel like in my job, it is one of not many out there where you not only get to run a fantastic organization, and I have a great organization, but you get to interact with people who are gonna go out and do really great things. And the challenges are challenges that everybody faces, and a lot of them aren't necessarily about being in a college town. They're just about the fact that, briefly, the state seems less and less apt to let people govern at the local level. And that really impacts us, and I think it, disproportionately impacts actually well-run governments. Because where we have kept taxes and things lower, the way they have enacted laws to try to prevent other people from growing them, it actually disproportionately impacts us. So, I think there are so many more pluses to being a college town, and according to Barstool, the best college town. Thank you. I don't know how much time I have, but if there's one more.
Senator Adams,
Senator Adam, off-campus caucus, permission to premise.
briefly.
Being pretty involved, like city government stuff and kind of know about vote government, I myself was not registered to vote, this past election. I know you talk about voting, how important that is. Besides actually going out to vote, what is the best forum that students like us can come and contact the city, or maybe voice some of our concerns, some of the things that we see that we want to change, or things that are going well? How do we voice that to people out there?
Fantastic. Great question. And good on you for admitting you didn't vote. You have lots of opportunities to change it, right? So you can always come to council meetings, right? That's the big one. And I tell people all the time, if you think you and 3 of your friends can't change the course of this 130,000 person city, you are wrong. Because that matters a lot. So you can come to council. The other thing I would encourage you to do is, one of the things that's different about being the CEO of a $500 million a year organization is, if you email me or call me, and there are people in this room who attest to that, and give me a little bit of time, I'll be. But you have all these great people that run the city, and if you have an issue or a question, elected officials are fantastic, go to them, but you can also go to us. People don't come to us or ask us, hey, could you help me with this? Could you help me with that? And we have phenomenal people. You guys are paying taxes. You deserve those services. We have tremendous ones. I would tell anyone, but especially students, look on there, pick up the phone, call somebody at City Hall and say, I've got this problem, who do I get with? And you'd be surprised how much information they'll give you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, one more question. I have Chair Williams.
Oh. Community relations, this one's kind of like something else, but, not being an Aggie, what is your favorite Aggie tradition and why?
Ooh. I guess if you're talking about, I know you're probably looking for one of the fun tradition pieces. I will say, I've only saw them all like 2 times because my wife is a lawn. Yeah, so don't do that around me outside of here. But I told her she loves A&M. She believes Burnt Orange, but she would love our kids to go here, if that's okay. But she is just like, I am not selling them all. And I'm like, I'm with you on that. But I would say there's something when you're in the stadium and seeing all that happen, it's pretty cool. Outside of the actual tradition piece of it, right? I mean, there's so attached. I think it's incredible that A&M is different. And I would encourage you guys to hang on to that. And not the BS thing, we're different this way when it suits me. But when somebody says you don't lie, cheat, or steal, that is an absolute. And if there's one message I can tell you, whatever you go do in your career, military, public service, private sector, your integrity is the absolute most important thing. Do not give it up. Give everything else up before you give that up. And don't tell yourself, I'll make some sacrifices, I'll do some things, and then when I get in a position where I'm really powerful, I'll lock it down. Trust me, it's harder the higher you go. So start right now, when you're interacting with each other, when you're interacting with other people, and decide. It doesn't matter if I get elected or not, it doesn't matter if I get the grade I want or not, I'm gonna do it this way. And I think that's something you guys at Texas A&M, you have a head start on that because it's ingrained in your culture. And again, I would say that tradition, that reputation has been paid for by a lot of other people that came before you. So you do it for yourself and pay it forward for the people that come out.
All right, with that, we
Thank
thank
you.
him for his time.
Thank you.
All right, with that, Pro Tem Tucker, do we have anyone else for open forum? Great, bonfire remembrance.
wants to grab a motion here.
State your motion.
President Tucker, I want to spend time with you.
Seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, it is undebatable and amendable at the time and will require a 2/3 majority vote. Do I see any objections to the motion? Seeing none, this motion does pass. Hold on one second. Oh, so we're gonna get your slides. Legislation, this one. Okay. All right, with that, you have 5 minutes beginning at how?
Bonfire remembrance, from the remembrance commission for facilitates. Slide. All right, so I believe that you can't really get a tradition of bonfire remembrance until you understand the history of bonfire. Bonfire was built on our campus starting in 1907, officially 1909. It started out as a trash pile, big heap of flammable materials. It was built as a celebration of the annual football win. And it grew over the years, but it was burned every year traditionally for the Aggies played to football. It was said to represent the burning desire that every Aggie had in their heart to beat the hell out of TU. Over the years, it grew a lot, but it was something that symbolized unity on our campus. It brought together different works from the core cadets, from different forms on campus, different student organizations. Everyone was a part of Bonfire, and it was just this hugely unifying event that happened every year on our campus. It built A&M's sense of camaraderie until it is today. Yeah, just this hugely unifying event. There are only 2 years in A&M's history that Bonfire hasn't burned on our campus. The first was in 1963, after the assassination of JFK. The seniors in charge of Bonfire that year decided to just assemble staff and not burn that year in his honor. The second year was in November 1999. Staff collapsed several days before it was scheduled to burn, and it took with it the lives of 12 Aggies. This is a tragedy that completely changed our campus forever, and the lives of 12 Aggies being lost is not something we take lightly, even 26 years later. It was something that just really changed our campus in a lot of ways, just looking back at our history. But on a deeper level, there's 12 spaces on our campus that have not been filled. There are still losses on campus and the lives of people who knew these 12. Every year on November 18th at 2:42, Aggies gather at the Bonfire Memorial for a ceremony. Honor these 12 lives, and it's called Bonfire Remembrance. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that, being involved in state government and or in the Corps Cadets. But I just want to encourage you to be this tradition this year. It's year 26, and it matters just as much as it has for every single other year. I think sometimes we feel detached from this tragedy because it happened 26 years ago. But I think in a lot of ways it's closer to us than we realize. If you read about the lives of these 12 Aggies, I think you'll find that you're very similar to them in a lot of ways. Their stories are stories that resonate with students still to this day. Some ways that you can get involved. We've already had our screening of the Burning Desire documentary, but we have reflections displays set up all across campus in different college buildings this year for individuals who learn more about their lives. Also in the MSC flag room, we have a display set up. This is the first year we have artifacts from the Sanders Sports Center that were given to us to use this year. So I really encourage you to stop by, take a look, and learn more about the history of Bonfire, what it looks like, and also read about the 12 Aggies that we're going on. We also hold a Coffee and Reflections event on November 17th at midnight, or I guess 18th midnight, and it's going to be in the administration building. This is a time where you can come, you can learn more about the 12 that we're going to honor. You can just gather with the community of A&M to prepare yourself for the ceremony. And then the ceremony will again be held on November 18th at 2:42 a.m. That is next Tuesday. These are the 12 that we get here. I just want to say, I think that A&M's really unique in fact. Well, our previous speaker talked about how A&M is important, right? And I want to lose that sense of difference. I think one thing that really kind of cultivates this difference is that A&M provides opportunities that are really step outside of our shelves. If you think about your life and just how much it revolves around you, it's most of your life. I mean, college really, kind of emphasizes that, and, you know, you're preparing for your future, and you're constantly thinking about yourself. And there's one unique in that it provides multiple opportunities, or to remember traditions, to step outside of yourself and be part of something bigger than yourself, and also to be part of something that has nothing to do with you. So I think we need those moments as college students, and I encourage you to embrace that while you're here, because you don't get those 4 years back. That's all I have.
All right, with that, our presenter is now open for a period of question and answer. Do I see any questions? I see Chair Teets. Briefly.
Dear TNT, thank you for being here and for all the hard work you've done to make this decision around this year. The senators in this room represent a lot of students. What's the best thing you can do to support you and increase engagement and attendance?
I really appreciate that question. I think IU traditions, they continue as long as students on campus continue to care about and foster those traditions. And that takes talking to people in the classes, it takes talking with your friends. It's not something that's just limited to student government, to place on campus where we serve, we like understand traditions, but there's a lot of person on campus who really aren't that ratio of traditions. And so think about those spaces, think about the people in your life who, you know, they came to A&M and they feel about a few IU traditions, but they're not as familiar with many of those traditions. Just think about how you can talk to those people, maybe take them to a reflections display this week and help them to learn more about their lives these IUs.
Senator Willis.
Senator Willis, on Campus Caucus, how early would you recommend trying to get to the memorial before the actual ceremony starts?
Good question. Parking will be free in lot 47 by the Bonfire Memorial, as well as Polo Garage and lot 5. I recommend getting there around, I'd say it's only 2 or 2:30-ish, probably be your best bet, and people show up pretty early. I will say one thing, if you get there early, you are allowed to stand inside the spirit ring. A lot of people don't do that, but that is open for you to come.
All right, with that, we thank her for her time. Pro Tem Tucker, do we have anyone else for open forum?
Yes, we do, for the Constitution Committee, Commission.
Madam Speaker. There you go. Great.
Madam Speaker, I have a motion.
State your motion.
Pro Tem Tucker, I move to extend the time by 8 minutes.
Seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, it's undebatable and amendable as to time and will require a 2/3 majority. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections to the motion? Seeing none, this motion does pass. All right, with that, you have 10 minutes beginning at Howdy.
Howdy. My name is Chloe Ramirez, and I'm here to reintroduce the Representation Commission to you tonight. So our mission, we exist to foster engagement, advocacy, and awareness within Texas A&M University's student body. We facilitate conversations, communication, promote awareness, and emphasize the importance of representation throughout campus. Through the values of IU family, the code of honor, and the core values, the commission shall provide a unifying platform for students of all backgrounds and perspectives. Now, how do we do it? We organize and operate programs that educate the student body on representation while fostering meaningful discussions on various topics. Now that's from the code. Let me give you 2 examples that we have recently done. So first, our commission is trained by the ABA office. What we do is we expedite the review process of 18 buildings set out for the fall semester. Of these 18 buildings, we have almost made it completely proven. Previously, it was just the ADA director and a few workers within her office who would go around this huge campus to get to 18 buildings. I don't know if you've ever walked through a building from floor to top. It's not bad. It's not bad. So we've gone through all 18 buildings, which has helped us expedite this process of figuring out what is inaccessible. How do we move forward? How do we make sure that this is happening on a quicker pace? Because our Aggies need it. Second, organization funding. So in my previous role, because it was my 2nd year doing this, I got to have a conversation with various student leaders across campus. From here, we talked about what SOFC funding looked like as well as internal funding from the university. From here, I was given the opportunity to present a student perspective to various stakeholders within the university. From here, I gave them perspective. I told them that students are having a hard time navigating SOCC, they're having a hard time finding program and funding. And so from here, we were able to discuss what it looks like to have the foundation take a step in. Maybe provide an extra account for those bigger organizations, free up some room in visual funding, etc. So, do you want to go to the next one?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
I know you already know who we are, but I wanted to make something very clear tonight. We're more than just a name. As you're probably aware, last semester, I made the executive decision to change the name from Diversity Commission to Representation. And this is because we are more than just what this name precedes us. Sorry, 1 second. So, our work is broad and intersectional, advocating for a wide range of students on this campus. The commission itself embodies the representation that we are tasked to do. Our members come from across campus, academic disciplines, and life experiences. Among us are veterans, first-generation students, international students, and just from various backgrounds that you can imagine. The makeup of the commission reflects the very students that we have all been tasked to represent. Over the past 25 years, yes, the commission has existed for 25 years this year. Our focus areas have evolved, but the core mission of what we have been tasked to do has stayed the same, ensuring every student has a voice in the decisions that affect them. Next. Now, I want to address some concerns about how recent processes have unfolded. Tonight, you will hear an act that involves the commission. Now, while this Committees and Commissions Act does have an important role, getting rid of 2 organizations have already said they would go away. That's totally fine. At the very end, you will see that there's a section that takes out the commission from the code completely. This proposed change does not only affect the 21 people serving in the commission, but the 80,000 students that we have been set to represent. What happens to the commission shapes how representation is practiced in student government and outside of student government. To be frank with you, Senate, the author of this piece has left me completely in the dark. I was never spoken to about the proposal. It was moved forward without my knowledge, my consultation, and the same way that funds that were previously allocated to us were taken without notification or without my consent. This has been, to put it plainly, hidden from me. Beyond that, I don't believe enough of you senators have been consulted to even move forward with this, to understand the consequences of what this bill means. There has been no action plan presented, no explanation of what happens to the representation commission or the students it serves if it moves forward. And I urge you all to take a minute before this bill is read and before we take this building tonight to read that bill from front to back. I know it's on the last thing of the video, but trust me when I say you will learn something from it. Our mission commits us to serving the student body through transparency, accountability, and like our first speaker said, the Aggie core values. Through the thing that we hold to each other, not lie, cheat, or steal. The decision and the process behind this bill does not reflect that. Thank you for your time and attention, Senate. I understand it's going to be a long night, but I would appreciate the opportunity for giving you this clarification about this today.
All right, with that, our speaker is now open for a period of question and answer. Do I see any questions for the commissioner? I see Senator Richards.
Senator Richards, College of Arts and Sciences. First, thank you for being here. SGA has a goal of increasing engagement and leadership opportunities. Can you tell us about the engagement and leadership opportunities that the commission provides?
Of course. So multiple people within the commission have gained leadership experience outside of this commission, outside of SGA, because of the work that SGA has allowed them to do. For example, one of our chairs was an event programmer last semester. She was in charge of putting together 2 large events, Student Body President Town Hall and our Student Success Summit, a brand new event. From there, she was able to go into the MSC, gain a senior position within another organization, and continue the work that's done for other students that SGA may not.
Do you see other questions? Chair Hurd.
Senator Omar, my question is, what have been the impacts of your finances from the Senate side? Have we continued to get the guidance that we're not, what's that?
Great question. So over the 25 years, I don't have every single exact Google sheet because past submissions have been bad about that organization. But from my side, in the past 4 years, our allocation has decreased slowly. This year specifically, you guys were all here whenever that bill was passed. So, and you all have the final bill. We do have 0 allocations this year. So if that's answers your question.
I see Senator Burnside.
Are you aware of any assessment conducted on how the proposed change might affect the 80,000 students that the commission represents?
I haven't. That's my exact question. I haven't been consulted. I didn't even really find out about this until the speaker was given the final copy.
Chair Kim. Please wrap up in 1 sentence. State your motion.
President Becker. By the school. Second.
Seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, it is undebatable and amendable as to time and will require a 2/3 majority vote. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections? Seeing none, this motion does pass. Now you can.
Was my understanding that from whenever we voted as a team, we moved around some money, there was certain defense submitted to the commission. Has that followed through? Is there like $0 you have access to, or is it $0 officially from something?
We have $0 officially from Senate.
Thank you.
Senator Yost.
Senator Yost, Arts and Sciences, what possible ramifications could you see from like increased trends of no funding going into this year, and then that's what could eventually be the dissolution of this commission?
Great question. I actually have a document that I went through the code that you guys uphold. And there are multiple points where this would have really bad ramifications. So first, I think that if this is to go forward, it would cease to exist in the code. So then it may be picked up somewhere else. There is no guarantee that this organization that has existed on this campus within this code for 25 years would continue. 25 years would be completely gone. Representation commission, the very thing that we are set to do, represent the student body, would not exist. On the financial part of it, of course, we have profit shares that we put together. We are able to try to go and do stuff like that. But the main portion that the main thing that we go to allocation for, because it's one of our sources of of funding, for us to put on things for the student body. So no, I don't think that there would really be any great positives to this in my opinion.
Permission without inquiry.
Briefly.
There are rights with motion.
State your motion.
Our motion to extend the with a few minutes.
Seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, it is undebatable and amendable as to time and will require a 2/3 majority vote. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections to the motion? Seeing none, this motion does pass.
But like, would there be anything to take up the jobs and duties of this commission should we dissolve it?
From my understanding of what has been presented to you, which is nothing, no.
I have EDO Troyer. Motion preface. Briefly. So you talk a lot about how representation commission does a lot with different aspects of SGA. So in your opinion, how does removing a commission where over 20 senators currently serve align with the SGA mission?
Well, let me clarify. It's not 21 senators. It's 21.
I'm sorry, I meant members. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. I just want to clarify.
Yes.
Can you restate? Sorry.
Yes.
Portion of
So
that?
how does removing the commission that has over 20 students align with the SGA mission?
I honestly don't think it does. And I feel like if you ask anybody who really knows me, you can ask what my values are. You can ask who I am as a person. I try to look at everything from two sides. I try to make sure that I'm not thinking some type of perspective. Since I have been presented with nothing, and I've read over the code, I've read over the missions, I've read over all of this. I do not see how this adheres to that, how it pursues that, how it gives us more leadership opportunities. It would quite frankly get rid of 21 leadership positions within this SGA.
Senator Von Wupperfeld. Briefly, very briefly. State your motion.
I will be sent for your request. Second.
The amount of motion has been made and seconded. It is undebatable and amendable at the time and will require a 2/3 majority. Do I see any objections to the motion? Seeing none, this motion does pass.
Legislation. If need be, some of the. Heard about that, is that a thing that's happening, what's going on?
Yeah, so let me make something clear. So as a commission, we do exist in the SBD's cabinet. And this SBD has been very clear with me that he is willing to help and support us. But something that I want to make very clear is that we asked for allocation. We went through the process. We made sure that everything we did step by step was done correctly. If you want to know, Carter has been able to help me buy $30 mics. One of the smallest things that I put on allocation that still got stricken away from us.
Chair Hurt.
Laura again, do you think that we're seeing just a rise in motion of anti-diversity and representation movement throughout the grand political spin trickle down into our city?
Well, I'm not really here to kind of talk on that. I'm here more so to talk about, and that's kind of the point.
One.
State your point.
Chiefs and services that. The two partisan or non-partisan.
I don't think so.
So back to the point that I made of your presentation, I think one of the biggest reasons I made that executive decision to change the name is because there is this negative connotation or whatever connotation you want to put with that word. And so moving into representation, I went through a process with my commission and asked them, what do you think we should be named? And when we thought about what is actually, we thought representation. And so that's how we came to that. I'm not really sure what's going on in the outside world, but I understand what's happening in this building. And that's what I'm here for.
I have Senator Adamek.
Senator Dominic, off-campus caucus, I just want to know an actual dollar amount that you have seen or not seen, whether it be from our allocations and change it over, or to what has been Columbia, FDP and the whole, that executive side. What dollar amount has been realized by you guys?
Realize, what do you mean by that?
What dollar amount have y'all seen and have y'all received or been processed?
From student government as a whole, I have seen $30.
And what was previously?
2,300.
Okay. And how much of that has been, I guess, events you've had so far, things, how much of that has been strict? So far with events, as we are on November.
Yeah.
State your point.
Chair Hurt, Laura, back to.
Yes, that's true. You're out of order.
Madam Speaker, I have a motion.
State your motion.
Motion to extend time by 3 minutes.
Seeing that a motion has been made. State your point. That's true. You're out of order. Okay, we're moving to Senator Babanco.
Senator Bonco, Bush School, Commissioner Kempis,
No.
do you believe that having representation, causes any issues?
No.
Permission to back and forth with briefly.
Granted.
And do you feel like even though you are targeting certain student groups, you are still representing the whole of the student body?
Well, I wouldn't say we're targeting certain groups. We have an historic interaction with various students, from pregnant women to veterans. Like, quite literally, in 25 years, you would imagine the types of areas on campus that we've touched. That's what I have.
Hi, Senator Bradley.
Senator Bradley, College of Engineering, I'm gonna re-ask this question. How many events or things that you maybe previously had planned that because you did not receive allocation or funding, have y'all's commission not been able to follow that?
Yeah, so of the 23,000, for the fall semester, I expected to use around 500. Now that counted for food for our room table talks, for our student leader meet and greets, as well as advertising materials, because of the name change, let me change that number, my bad, $1,000, because some of the advertising money that was supposed to be in there. So food, there was a programming food section, there was supplies and materials, there was advertising money, so I would say around 1,000. I don't have it directly in front of me because this did happen.
Thank you.
Chair Williams. Any other questions? I see Senator Owen.
What's the currently involved account and how much people what's to extend this way? Or actually, you guys for that. What's the current involved?
Here.
All right, with that, we thank her for her time. Pro Tem Tucker, we're still in open forum. Do we have anyone else to open forum?
We do. I don't figure out what.
State your motion.
Second.
Seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, it is undebatable and amendable as to time and will require a 2/3 majority. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections to the motion? Seeing none, this motion does pass. Hold on just a second, Shelby. Can we pull up her slides? Sorry, yes. They're on other. All right, with that, you will have a 10-minute period of presentation beginning now, Howdy.
Hi, Senate. My name is Shelby Riley. I serve as the election commissioner. I have been here today to speak on the 2025 Election Reform Act that will be proposed during this meeting. I want to first start off by making it extremely clear that there were senators in this room that were convinced to sponsor this act under the false pretenses that it had been facilitated by me, worked on by me, and that I had approved the legislation written in this act. In the nature of transparency, I had a meeting with the chair of the Rules and Regulations Committee back in September and had been left completely in the dark about this act until Sunday, despite multiple attempts to collaborate. As you will learn, there are many points of contention that I have with this act, but I want to make it clear that many of you were lied to about my stance on this act and ordered to gain your support. There are individuals in this room that were told not to consult me about my stance on these major regulations in order to ensure that I was unaware of this falsification of my opinion or any of these major changes. Not only is this an highly honorable violation, but it also clearly misrepresents ethical values that we strive to live from the oath we all took when being confirmed to the Student Government Association at 6 a.m. I want each of you to know that I speak on behalf of my commission and what we believe to be the best plan of action moving forward. During my time on the floor tonight, I will be speaking on the biggest points of contention that I have with this act, because I simply do not have enough time to speak on every single issue I see with these regulation changes. That being said, could you all please flip to page 13 of the 2025 Election Reform Act, specifically Article 5, Section 2.8. This section revolves around group campaigning, but point E with the additional subsection A, B, and C states that the election commissioner may not approve of a name that is so similar to a previously registered, quote, political party or any recognized student organization so that would confuse a reasonable voter or essentially anything deemed confusing by the election commissioner. This means that any group campaign name that is deemed by me to be too similar to a student organization will not be able to run as a campaign and will be required to change their name. This specific point will make a lot of back-end work for the commissioner, as I will need to manually approve campaign teams and names for upwards of 180 candidates for this year's spring election cycle, which will slow down the cycle as a whole, delay approvals, and simply overwhelm the commissioner. Please keep in mind that I am a very unbiased commissioner, but in cycles following the spring, that may not be the case, which can hurt specific tickets' chances of getting their names approved by the future election. Additionally, if you're leaving almost everything to do with approval of group campaign name teams and group campaign names up to the discretion of the election commissioner, what is to stop a candidate from filing an injunction on the first day of filing if their group campaign name gets denied? To provide some insight, if the candidate were to file an injunction at any point in the election process, it would hold up the entirety of the elections processes, including all voting, results verification, Senate confirmation, Yale leader activities, SVP and SVP confirmation, cabinet confirmation, and JAG confirmation. Essentially, it will hold up the entire Student Government Association and will make all of our lives exponentially harder. In the act of being thorough, both subsection A and B for section E should have periods at the end of each sentence as they are complete thoughts. Moving down a bit further to page 13, specifically Article 5, Section 2.H, it talks about group campaigns being able to replace a disqualified candidate on their team so long as the new candidate is qualified for office, isn't running with their group campaign, has paid the filing fee, and has notified the election commissioner of their running 1 week before, quote, the start of elections. This very clearly undermines the ethical nature of the Student Government Association. If I, as the election commissioner, have to tell individuals that they cannot file past the deadline set, how is it fair that a group campaign can replace someone who is disqualified with someone who has previously not filed when those not running with the group campaign do not have those same privileges? This point completely undermines the free and fair nature of the elections and is simply egregious. Furthermore, the code never defines the start of elections, so that means it would be up to the election commissioner's interpretation to decide when the start of elections is, and if it falls on the first day of filing or the first day of voting. If it was deemed that the start of the elections is the first day of filing or on the first day of voting, there simply would not be enough turnaround time to have our IT professional David Swanson
update the ballot in time for the replacement candidates on the ballot. This means individuals who are replacing someone on a group campaign will likely not end up on the ballot because of the back end of vote.tamu.edu coding procedures. Moving on to section 4 of this article, it is stated in bullet point A, the group campaign is collectively responsible for all campaign materials or activities subject to the election commission's discretion. This means the election commission will need to approve of any and all events that a group campaign will be participating in or putting on. This point, like many others, puts a lot of power into the election commissioner's hands. Since this will be the code that is rolled upon for the next 2 cycles, there's absolutely no telling what the future election commissioner will decide to approve and not approve based on just that one sentence. Again, I operate my commission on a very unbiased basis, but who is to say the next election commissioner will do the same? Moving on to bullet point B, again, in the act of being thorough, the name of my commission is the Election Commission, not the Elections Commission. And the term penalty has never before been described or used in a code. Bullet point D and C of this section directly contradict, because it is stated in B that the commission may hold the individual or group responsible for violations. But in C, it states that violations are attributed to the entire group campaign. Finally, looking at section 5, bullet point D, it is clear that the group campaign will be able to combine all of their budgets to create one massive pool of money that their group campaign can access. For example, if this was the case in the last spring cycle, Christian's ticket, who ran 69 Senate candidates with their ticket maximum budgets at $600 per minor race, would have had a budget of $41,400, and Goodwill, who ran with 60 Senate candidates, would have had a combined budget of $36,000, which is very clearly unfair to all candidates who choose to run on their own or are not selected to be a part of these campaigns. If everyone could please turn to page 15, Article 6, Campaigning, Section 1.B, subsection 2. I'll take a pause for that. In this section, they are defining what a supporter is. In point B, it is stated that candidates must authorize the actions of their supporters. If anyone who commits an unauthorized action will not be considered a supporter. If this section of the code were to be submitted on a violation report, it would require me to reach out to the campaign chair to determine if an individual who would be receiving a violation is a supporter, which is not something that the election commissioner has ever done in the past, nor do we have the manpower to do today. The entire point of the election commission is being able to rule on violations is to rule on what we are given. My commission is not tasked with being a watchdog committee, nor is our goal to find and track down evidence ourselves. The commission in nature is unbiased, and putting the burden of contacting campaign chairs about who and who isn't a supporter would undermine the unbiased nature of the commission. This would allow campaign chairs the opportunity to fabricate the truth and say that someone is not a supporter in order to ensure that their group campaign is not receiving a violation, which again undermines the free and fair nature of these elections. Moving down to point E of that same section, it describes an election timeline. This timeline is completely contradictory and does not follow the previous timeline as described by the code. It states that candidates may start distributing campaign materials 2 weeks from the Sunday of the start of elections. Again, the start of elections is never defined in the code. For this coming cycle, that would mean candidates would be allowed to distribute campaign materials on February 8th, when the mandatory candidates meeting is until February 15th. This is directly contradicted in Article 8 violation, Section 3, subpoint A, subsection 5. Quote, candidates or supporters who distribute campaign materials before the mandatory candidates meeting shall receive a 1-tier violation for each item distributed. As you can tell, this is extremely confusing. The entire point of the election code is to lay out the rules and regulations of student body elections in a clear and concise manner, and it is very apparent that this added timeline section would just further confuse candidates. Not only will this confuse candidates, but it has not created a clear way for the election to rule. After gaining experience in the last 3 cycles, I believe this section would result in a plethora of judicial court cases over the ambiguous language and lack of clear timeline. Again, to be thorough, section 3 materials, point A, subsection 3, there is a misspelling of the social media platform TikTok. Finally, if you would please turn to page 21, Article 8 violation, section 2.B, it states that violations will not be accepted after 11:59 of the date of unofficial results are announced. If this were the case, to be changed from 7 p.m. to 11:59, the plan of action by the commission would be to announce the results at 11:58 p.m. on the last day of voting. Logistically, my commission cannot rule on violations after the results are announced because they have completed their jobs within the commission. Additionally, my commission, the Chief Justice of the Judicial Court, my advisors, and myself go into a sequester period before results are announced in order to rule on last-minute violations and decide on major violations that could result in disqualification. This logistical practice has been done for many years in the Election Commission, and if this line of code were to be enacted, it would mean my commission and advisors would be required to be working on violations until 11 p.m.
In the order of College of Education and Youth Development, I move to, add 2 minutes.
Seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, how many minutes did you say? Senator Hargrove?
That's 2 minutes.
Seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, it is undebatable and amendable as to time and will require a 2/3 majority vote. We will attempt to this via general consent. Do I see any objection to the motion? Seeing none, this motion does pass.
So you do not believe that inconsistent government officials will be required to work on something this big until 11:59 p.m. Similarly, this will create a lot of issues with procedures of the sound systems that we use because Houston and studio as the sound systems from would no longer be open. So you would likely see me announcing the result via a cheap Amazon microphone. While I can understand the intention behind this line of code, using the wealth of knowledge I have gained from the past 3 election cycles, I can predict that there will be a plethora of violations submitted at the very last minute in attempts to sway the results or potentially overwhelm the election commissioner. I'm sure that y'all don't want to get the 12-man statute at 11:59 on the last day of voting, similar to how I don't want to, nor do I want to ask my advisor, who so selflessly gives up so much of her personal time to support the commission in more ways than we can even imagine, to be there until midnight when we have been in meetings all day about that same matter. In conclusion, I understand that people believe there need to be some regulations on group campaigning. But it is with the wealth of my knowledge that I have gained from the past 3 cycles that I do not believe this act will effectively address the changes that need to be made in order to continue to foster elections in a fair and ethical manner. I am more than willing, as I have been from the beginning, to work with the Rules and Regulations Committee and senators to create an ethical, clear, fair, and effective act that will ensure the free and fair nature of the electoral processes while upholding the Ivy Honor Code. I appreciate you all for listening and your time and what I have to say and for being respectful throughout this entire process. If you have any questions for me at all, please, after this, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. My email is tamnoelection@gmail.com.
All right, and with that, our speaker is now. Our speaker is now open for a period of question and answer. I see Senator Adamek.
Senator Adamek, first of all, praise the press, very good.
Very good.
I want to say thank you so much for how much knowledge you knew about what was going on with that. So that was very important to us. What about it do you think could continue forward? What good parts, if anything, could you think we work on from us as your commission?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think a lot of this will create lots of opportunities for collaboration. I'm not here to shut down group campaigning as a whole. I'm not here to say we can't do it or that it should be 1,000% regulated like it seems like it's going to be right now. I'm saying we need to create a solution that will make everyone happy so that we're not able to get an entire ticket disqualified over one person's actions. In this code that's written, I can try to find it for you. I'll probably not have time to find it. But it says warnings and violations are attributed to the entire group campaign. Each group campaign receives 1 warning and violations are assigned according to the election regulations. That additional adding to another section of this code would mean that you can get an entire ticket disqualified, and to me that. And so to me, there's lots of good information in here and good things that we can work off of. But again, the collaboration needs to happen so that we can create something that is representative of the student body and not used to just push a certain angle. We need to make something that will represent the interest of the student body, and that's our goal.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Madam Speaker, I have a motion. State your motion. President Tucker, I move to accept this one by.
Second.
Seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, it is undebatable and amendable as to time and will require a 2/3 majority vote. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections? 3 minutes. Where was I? Do I see any objections to the motion? Seeing none, this motion does pass. Doing your good. Oh, wait, I have to give you a question. Hold on. Senator Hargrove.
Senator College of Education and Youth Development, if any of these changes were to go straight through and pass, get signed by the student body president, would you feasibly be able to conduct elections in March or February?
That's a very tricky question because in theory, yes, I would be able to, but I don't know that I can stand up here and say with my full heart it would be ethical elections. And I don't know that it would be not necessarily ran ethically, but it wouldn't. I don't know that it would be comprehensive of what the student body. I think there would be a lot of behind the scenes and a lot of like moving and a lot of violations that would be submitted that aren't necessarily violations. In order to move to an entire ticket to qualify. And I don't know that that would be representative of the student body. I don't know that I can confidently stand up here and say that I would support having an election based off this code.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Hart.
LR, do you think this legislation grants special privileges to those who are in tickets themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that's really important to me is making student government accessible to all people. Starting my background, I had no any sort of background at all with student government until I was on the election commission and now election commissioner. And I believe that it's really hard to get government. It's really hard to run campaigns. It's really hard to get elected because you have to have a voice and you have to talk to people. And sometimes that's hard for others. And so I think being on a campaign does give people like us, because they have constituents who are willing to repost Instagram stories or repost all these things or word of mouth. That being said, though, I don't think that we can take away tickets altogether. That's not why I'm here at all. But I do think that having tickets and having a code written like this one is right now gives individuals on tickets a leg up compared to people who are not on tickets or decide to run by themselves or are not selected to be on these tickets. That is the reality. A lot of these students want to be on tickets and are not chosen to do so. Thank you.
Senator Babanco.
Senator Ramonko, Bush School, have you worked with senators in this room to discuss any changes in elections?
That's a great question. So in full transparency, I had a meeting with the chair of the Rules and Regulations Committee back in September. This was beginning of September. After that, radio silence. I've heard nothing. I've been consulted on nothing. I have seen no legislation. I have seen absolutely nothing until something came across my computer on Sunday. So none of these regulations that were written as they are now were consulted on me, nothing. I had no say in anything that was written in these regulations.
Questions back and forth briefly.
Briefly.
Just to reiterate, are you currently capable to include tickets and groupings in the election software?
As it is written in this, that's gonna be a conversation I have to have with my team. And I'm gonna be honest, he's gonna be very unhappy. He's like gonna give you a lot of pushback and he's gonna say like, there's like no way for me to do this. For some context, he codes all of Get Involved. Get Involved kind of recoding recently. It's not only does he code Get Involved, he also codes Vote Us You. And I don't know that I'm comfortable asking him to try to recode our entire website with an election happening in 4 months.
Madam Speaker. Senator College of Education, I move to suspend time by everybody.
Second.
Seeing that motion has been made and seconded, it is undebatable and amendable as to time will require a 2/3 majority vote. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections?
Yeah.
All right, with that, we will now move into the standing vote led by Pro Tem Tucker. All those in favor of extending time, please rise as you are able. 3 minutes? By 3 minutes. All those opposed? By a vote of 18 to 27, this motion does fail. We have 1 minute and 38 seconds remaining. Who is asking the question? Can we finish the question? All right, I have Senator Honey.
Very often, I'm just curious, you mentioned as you were talking, how would you say that the rules and regulations share kind of violating that?
I am not gonna stand up here and say it was specific to what I'm there. I do believe that there were things that happened that were not necessarily to the character of what we should be holding ourselves to. But again, how am I supposed to be up here saying talk about someone else's character when they can't defend themselves? That's not what I'm doing. I think I should have been led into the conversation a lot earlier than I was, and I should have seen this document a lot earlier than I did, but I do understand like where that question. Thank you.
Senator Adamek, did you have a question?
Yes, Senator Adam, Hawkins, about this, what race, what election do you expect from those? Is it Senate, is it younger, is it FDP?
I think, last year, group campaigns, I should say, were allowed to run senators and student body president elections. And so I could see it affecting both. I could see a ticket running, a student body president, and vice president candidate as well as senators. And someone submitting a violation on that entire ticket to get all of them disqualified. Thank you.
All right, with that, we thank her for her time. All right, with that, we will now move into the approval of the October 29th, 2025 meeting minutes. Do I see any objections to the minutes? Seeing none, these minutes do pass. With that, we'll now move into the consideration of our consent agenda. You can see on the agenda which pieces are up for consideration. Yes. All right, do I see any objections to the approval of the consent agenda? Seeing none, these pieces do pass. Now going to move into the swearing in of our caucus leaders. These were elected during IA because all of them only had one option for who could be the leader. So will
Senator Lavasser, Senator Bobanco, and Senator Sanders.
y'all come to the floor to be sworn in by the Chief Justice. All right, reminder that we stand up, swearing in.
Raise your right hand. I state your name, do solemnly swear. To faithfully execute to the best of my ability. The duties of the office of your caucus. For the Texas A&M University Student Government Association.
For the Texas A&M University Student Government Association.
To uphold the honor of the same.
To uphold the honor of the same.
At all times to protect the welfare of the student body.
At all times to protect the welfare of the student body.
And to promote good relations between the students.
And to promote the relations between the students.
Those concerned with the university.
And those concerned with the university.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
All right, with that, we will now move into the confirmation of the academic affordability subcommittee chair. Will the potential chair and the committee chair please come to the floor? All right, we're now open for a brief interaction.
Howdy, Senate. Director of Academic Affairs. So very recently, the Academic Affordability Subcommittee got confirmed by the Internal Affairs Committee. However, this has been on our agenda and discussed between many members of student government, including the Senate and some members of the executive branch for a while now, because it addresses the critical need of affordability, academic affordability, in line with our university goals. Senator Hargrove and I have been especially in discussion with this along with Senate leadership, and I'm here to present him as the supposed subcommittee chair for the Academic Affordability Committee. Most of you probably know Senator Hargrove. He's been around for a very long time. He's been in student government his entire time at A&M. He's I think he's worked on academic affordability now for essentially the whole time here. He was Academic Affairs Vice President last year. He serves on the Academic Affairs Committee this year, and it's always a pleasure working with him. Honestly, a lot of the times I do rely on his insight and his experience when in committee meetings or when preparing for meetings with the administration. they're kind of the point behind academic affordability subcommittee, and specifically why Senator Hargrove is so well equipped to take part in this. Is because he has been in so many committees at the university level that he's very well acquainted with the different affordability issues of the day. Some of those, including third-party applications, such as PACT Act. I know most of us, at some point or another, have had to pay for PACT Act. Those kinds of things have been addressed by the provost office, but we still need to do some more work to get that taken care of. The other side of that is fees. There's some fees that cost the student body a total of $12 million. That's a lot of money. Trying to reduce areas, inconsistencies in that aspect, those are critical, and Senator Hargrove is very well acquainted. I can go on and on with so many different topics, including libraries, textbooks, digital access to no cost, low cost options. There's so many different things, but Senator Hargrove is the man for this subcommittee chair.
All right, with that, Senate, we're now going to move into a period of voting on the subcommittee chair. This needs to be passed by a 2/3 majority. We will attempt to do this via standing vote. All those in favor of the subcommittee chair, please rise as you are able. Yes, do both of them. All those opposed? By a vote of 41-0, this motion does pass. Please sworn in by our Chief Justice.
Please raise your right hand. I state your name, do solemnly swear
I, Robert Manuel Hargrove, do solemnly swear
to faithfully execute to the best of my ability
to faithfully execute to the best of my ability
the duties of the office of Chair of the Academic Affordability Subcommittee
the duties of the Chair of Academic Affordability Subcommittee
for the Texas A&M University Student Government Association
for the Texas A&M University Student Government Association
to uphold the honor of the same
to uphold the honor of the same
at all times to protect the welfare of the student body
at all times to protect the welfare of the student body
and to promote good relations between the students
and to promote good relations between the students
and those concerned with the university.
and those concerned with the university.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Right, with that, we will now move into a period of old business, beginning with the absence excusal act. Will the author please come to the floor?
Howdy, Ags, Chair Horton, Wilton Reg.
Senator Batten on his caucus.
All right, howdy, thank you so much for all the time you put in tonight. This is my one non-controversial legislation. Unless it becomes a very frequent night. But this was read for the first time, last meeting, my knowledge this week. But through committee, the only changes we're adding, to give Senator Hargrove on as a sponsor. But to reiterate what this bill does, because I wasn't here last time, was that when flu, is it lets the Speaker of the Senate designate other activities that senators can attend or perform to do to remove, Currently absences have been a bit of a problem within our body. And we have many senators trying to find out how to recognize. This gives us more tools and more options to help remember things out. That we're now open for a period of questions.
With that, our speakers are now open for a 5-minute period of question and answer. Do I see any questions? Seeing none, we thank them for their time. We will now move into a period of debate on this piece, beginning with the first round of debate against this piece. Do I see any debate against this piece? Seeing none, we will now move into the first round of debate for this piece. Do I see any debate for this? Seeing none, we will now move into the second round of debate against this piece. Do I see any debate against? Seeing none, we will now move into the second round of debate for this piece. Do I see any debate for this? Seeing none is the opinion of the chair that debate has become one-sided. We will now move into a period of voting on this piece. We will attempt to do this via standing vote led by Pro Tem Tucker. All those in favor of SA 7805, the Absence Excusal Act, please rise as you are able. All those opposed? By a vote of 42-1, this piece does pass. We'll now move into a period of new business, beginning with SR 7841, the Logan Case Sulitsky resolution. Well, author of the piece, please come to the floor. You have 10 minutes beginning at hand.
Howdy, this is the Sulitsky resolution. So whereas Silvertoughs is a sacred time-honored tradition of the Texas A&M University that serves as one of the final tributes the student body makes to students who have passed during the months leading up to the service. And whereas the solemn tradition was established in 1898 to commemorate the life of Lawrence Sullivan Ross and has been preserved for over a century to pay homage to those we have lost since. And whereas as long as the Texas A&M University continues to serve and educate those who walk the campus, Silvertoughs will remain a pillar of the Aggie way of life. Therefore, let it be resolved, the Texas A&M University Student Senate recognizes and commends those who took the time on November 4th to honor the members of our Aggie family we have lost, as well as all who have been, are, and will be involved with the preservation and regular facilitation of Silvertoughs. And let it be further resolved, the Texas A&M University Student Senate gives its sincerest condolences to the families and friends of Logan K. Zawelski, a sophomore microbiology student who was honored at Silvertoughs held on November 4th at the Academic Plaza. And let it be further resolved, the Texas A&M University Student Senate remembers Logan K. Zawelski as a passionate student, hard worker who wanted to serve others, and a kind-hearted individual who made the lives of those around him better. His memory will continue to live on in the hearts of his family and all who had the privilege of knowing him. And let it be further resolved, the Texas A&M University Senate joins the rest of the A&M student body in honoring the life and legacy of Logan K. Zawelski, for we are the Aggies and the Aggies are we. And let it be further resolved, a copy of this resolution be sent to the following.
All right, with that, we will now move into a period of question and answer from the author. Do I see any questions at all? Seeing none, we thank him for his time. With that, we'll now move into a period of debate on this piece, beginning with the first round of debate for this piece. Do I see any debate for this?
Madam Speaker, I have a question.
State your
I have a question. Senator Ramonko, Bush School. I move to open sponsorship and include myself as a sponsor.
Second.
Seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, it is debatable and amendable and will require a majority vote. We will begin with the first round of debate for this motion. Do I see any debate for this motion? Seeing none, we will now move into the first round of debate against this motion. Do I see any debate against this? Seeing none, we will now move into the second round of debate for this motion. Do I see any debate for this motion? Seeing none, we will now move into the second round of debate against this motion. Do I see any debate against this motion? Seeing none, it's the opinion of the chair that debate has become one-sided. We will now move into a period of voting on this motion. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objection to the motion? Seeing none, this motion does pass. You will get an email from Pro Tem Tucker with all of that information for opening sponsorship. With that, we are now in first round of debate for this piece. Do I see any debate for this piece? Seeing none, we will now move into the first round debate against this piece. Do I see any debate against this piece? Seeing none, we will now move into the second round of debate for this piece. Do I see any debate for this? Seeing none, we will now move into the second round of debate against this piece. Do I see any debate against this piece? Seeing none, is the opinion of the chair that debate has become one-sided. We will now move into a period of voting on this piece. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections to the passage of SR 7839? Seeing none, this piece does pass. All right, with that, we will now move into the consideration of SA 7807, the No Tickets Act. We're in a period of new business, so this is the first reading of this act. Will the author please come to the floor? We'll have 10 minutes beginning at 5.
County Senate. Your first LR going into this. I thought a lot about how I wanted to introduce this. I thought about doing a funny quip about how I started a ticket. Or, you're like, okay, Brendan, you started it, you founded it, and you ran a bunch of 60 senators and then you ran elections, so why are you wanting to be against it? But then the movie Frankenstein has come out, and that's kind of how I feel. I feel like Dr. Frankenstein. I feel like we experimented a little bit too much. We created something that has gone beyond our control. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit. Is why we should not have tickets and the argument for it. Going into it, who was elected by being on these traditions, Red Bull? Look around.
Yeah, you were.
Every single one of us. Some of you will applaud. Great, we did our job. We won. We were the victors. Some of you will say, okay, I'm elected. Okay, that's good. Goodbye. But I have to think that politics in the situation is something that we need to discuss. Because I remember electing Bird's actually Speaker Black. I was like, okay, man, I don't like her. Why? But I was told not to like her. I was told that by my very first chair election when I was a freshman senator. You should vote against this person. I had no clue why. You should vote for this person. Wow. I was no fish out of blood. I was a freshman. I was wide-eyed, bushy child, wanted to make a difference, wanted to fix the bus system, which Speaker Blackburn could tell you that was not going to happen, or extend dining hours, and she also said it's also probably not going to happen. So I tend to be pragmatic with that. Then later on down the line in my student government story, we saw two tickets emerge. There was Relics, which is most of y'all's generation, and then Traditions. And that was the first round of it. And I was not a part of Traditions, and Relics was kind of getting old. So I created Good Bowl. And I was like, okay, this is how we're going to be elected. And I advocated for people to get elected. And Traditions whomped on us, went through us. And then they whomped on us again, and there's nothing alive. And I was like, wait, tickets aren't actually doing anything. Besides making me not like people just based off of the identity of the ticket they were a part of. Are you with me or are you against me? That is a question I often got asked being a senator. Whose side are you on? Where do you see yourself in the next 4 years, Brendan? That was the second question I was asked by a very prominent member in our student government, not currently in. And he was like, where do you want to be? Because I can get you to those places if you just followed me and comply. I feel like we have these discussions and we ignore those. We ignore the pressure of tickets. I feel like we need to go to our history. This rings a little similarly if you know anything about the United States government. We see this polarization aspect. Republican versus Democrat. Red, blue, conservative, progressive, whatever you want to describe it as. And you're saying, okay, why is Washington broken? Why did it take 40 days for a government shutdown to occur? Why do we know that? And you see the same thing, okay, student government, why do we see things that are pretty nonsensical, to have common sense? We advocate and fight against it. Why? It's because of the people. You were against us at one point in this time, so we're going to hold that against you now. And that's what we see with George Washington. He states that political parties foster a spirit of revenge. And I am so sorry for those who I've hurt in this process. And I've had revenge to you. Who's in probably to me? Probably like Brendan, wow, you're grandstanding right now. You're a little annoying right now. Why are you doing this? You created this mess. What are you trying to do about it? Let's be honest. Why tickets? Because I wanted to win. And you wanted to win as well. And I did not want to be alone in this process. So I wanted to elect like-minded individuals, foundations of the ticket. But in the process, we've ignored so many other individuals. Has anyone heard of Black Together? A few of us. Is there a single senator with us who's in Black Together? Lock them in. Was there anyone who just ran on Lock them in? No. So that's why we created this resolution. The representation aspect of Senate is gone. We only care for our group, even though our group is whether or not you knew me before the election. Be honest, did you actually get interviewed to be on your ticket? Or were you just texted by someone who's thinking, it would be really great for this? And then you run, and then we have you show up for a day or two, and you go and Senate, and you're like, man, this is not for me, you should stop showing up. And then you ask them something. They have to kick you out. Or you resign. This process is repeated twice now. So rather than trying to regulate tickets, I think just ban them, get rid of them. Find it out. One person versus one person. See who wins. Foster capitalism and that competition. Get more firms. More people running. More competition. Let the elections do the process. As you'll see though, going into the bill specifically, you'll see that I've outlined that if you are running on the ticket, it prevents you on running with mutual campaign materials, prevents you on running with shared logos or names. If someone does make a voter guide, it prevents you from liking or you making and producing your own voter guide that is besides the one that is provided by the election commission. I've talked to the election commissioner and I told her I'm writing this legislation not because I think it's going to pass. Because it's like Congress trying to decide whether or not we should fund the government. The same thing. Or it's like, okay, term limits. Should Congress have term limits? We say yes. But the problem is Congress has to regulate itself. And I'm asking you the sentiment, in the sentiment of President JFK, that's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That's what we can do for our school. Not what the school or the ticket can do for you. Ask whether or not we should do something just because it is hard rather than it is easy. It is easy for you to just post yourself once, be on a ticket and free ride. It's an economics term for those who are in economics. Free rider. That's the big process that we need to discuss. So rather than trying to get into the nitty gritty of whether or not the election commissioner should be able to disqualify one person for a ticket or trying to essentially codify tickets into our system, we need to be our own. Going into the system that some other legislation produces or what we are trying to aspire perhaps by trying to regulate this rather than flat out banning it is to create a University of Florida-like system And I don't like a lot of things from Florida, so we beat the hell out of them. In football, man, I wanted another word for that. There we go. We beat the hell out of them in football. I don't want to be them. I don't want to mirror their system. And it's kind of the aspect of this. Being athletes not oblige you to steal, but I think we're cheating our student body by not actually having a solid discussion on it. I'm asking you to think about this. I'm not asking you to say whether or not we should give them tickets to Howard to say, but we must address the fact that the current ticket situation does not do any good. It only promotes harm. And I say that because, well, currently, I think I am the only person who's created their own ticket. Jackson isn't with me, so he's gone. I say that for that. But with that, I guess I'll yield for questions.
The speaker is now open for a 5-minute period of questions and
Oh,
answers.
there we go.
I see Senator Bradley.
Senator Bradley, politics are great. Would you not say that the group system that we kind of created or that's being created, mimics, our politics at the federal level?
And that's a bad thing, yes.
Permission back and forth.
Senator Chirkin.
Sure, can I come here? You mentioned that Florida, the University of Florida, something about them not having tickets.
They do.
Oh, my fault.
University of Florida replicates and creates a slated system where you have Vision Party and Change Party that are codified in their elections. And it mirrors similarly to other pieces of life. Not to interrupt, I'm just apologizing. I don't want to be there.
I was gonna say.
Should.
Chair Patel.
Chair Patel, Constituency Affairs, Commissioner Price. So it talks about sending like a slate of elected people, that would regards to qualifications. So say I'm running for Senate, my friend Cohort's running for Senate, my friend Sam Hughes running for Senate, all separately. And I have a buddy who's sort of on the outside of SJ, but he knows election coming out. So he says like, hey, who are your friends who are running for Senate? Who should I vote for? And I fix them. You know, tell Ford, Sam Hughes, I think trying for qualification probably, but it's just like, out.
I think that you have to be caught. So if you send your buddy and screenshots that and send it to the election commission. And I think that's a good thing. I'm gonna say that. This is extremist position. I'm being extreme on this because we need to take this issue seriously. Because the fact is, we don't take it seriously. People are going to find loopholes. And I want to integrate this bill preventing any loopholes. And then as any good politician or congressperson will find, they'll create the loopholes. So we'll send it to committee and create loopholes. But right now, I wanted to advocate for a harsher sentence. So yes, I'm going to yes.
Chair Kim. Okay, not Chair Kim. Oh, Chair Chu. No, it says Kim. Hey, Chair Chu.
Whenever you mention length of voting, not on you. What would you say about consent to grant on tickets and the cadet representation has increased by 40%?
Okay, that's our touch, your official registered student organization. So if IFC wanted to run an IFC section, good. If core cadets want to run that, that's fine. I can't regulate a student organization from creating voter guides to tell you to vote for their members. I'm just merely saying that we should not create our own student student government shenanigans, I guess, right? They endorse each other. That's all.
Making a back and border.
No. Chair Senator Owen.
Are you aware of a smaller self-run ticket? Just for maybe 2 years ago,
I'm so sorry, AGL, that's your.
all in for AGL. Small, right? Yeah, it is possible.
It is completely possible. My God, you also kind of want to say that they will never family call with that.
Yeah, it wasn't, I wasn't. It's not, but. I relate to one of them.
Senator Wild.
Do you worry that by splitting up parties that election is more of a popularity contest than the other parties?
It's already a popularity contest if you're joking or something otherwise.
Senator Vivanco.
Senator Ramonko, question pool, does this affect 5 for Yale or any other election?
It only affects minor races. I'm only caring about my three LPD and thing. See why we're doing it.
Not granted. Senator. Chair Horton.
Sure, Horton rules and regulations. Permission to preface, Madam Speaker.
Appreciate it.
So. First Amendment, although we're not governed by the United States Constitution, is fundamentally here in part to protect political speech. And although we are not, under the government of the First Amendment with regards to the offer of the Constitution with regards to SGA, do you not think there's something fundamentally un-American about not being able to say to go support my friend? Because I think they'd be a great leader when I'm also running.
As someone who studies political science, so.
State your motion.
President Tucker, I would say send the time back.
Seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, it is undebatable and amendable as to time and will require a majority vote. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections to the motion? Seeing none, this motion does pass.
I'm glad I'm very popular, you guys. But to answer your question, as someone who is a political science major in a public service administration, I have a affinity for the Constitution, and that was the question I got asked. Like, whoa, does this not prevent someone from speaking freely? Then I go to Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers. He said, to be a politician or a public servant, you are public property. And I think we are held as politicians and as public property, as student representatives, to higher standard. Now, if I went to Northgate and got black out Trump, I have the ability to be impeached for my actions. You'd be like, okay, is that not preventing ethical? Why are we regulating world leader? Oftentimes, anything that we do has to be regulated if you're part of the government. This is no extension. This is no further of an extension. I have the freedom to drink if I wanted to, but then again, we are abided by in our processes within student.
Madam Speaker, Commissioner.
Not granted. Senator Healy.
Senator Healy, College of Arts and Sciences. I appreciate you bringing up permission to say.
Likely, that's a good word, yeah.
I appreciate you bringing up IFC and the core as an independent student organization. What's stopping someone from making Trav Mackay the full name?
That's something that should get regulated. All right, hey, to answer your question, no, there is that loophole, but that's not necessarily what I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to stop really the fact that, okay, well, I know X, Y, and Z multiple people. Let's all just run together, even though we have no connection to whatever. I didn't know who I was running with for the first time I was running with. Probably most of you didn't know anyone either. It's fine if two organizations want to endorse their candidates. I'm not trying to stop. That's your freedom of speech. As I said, you're not regulated by student government. But if you're running for the position, I think you need to be held to a higher standard.
Senator Yost.
Senator Yost, Arts and Sciences. I guess my question is, who are we to say you cannot run with like-minded people? People you agree with on things. Who are we to tell people you are not allowed to run to someone you agree with?
We are the ones who done that.
So who are we to tell them that they are not allowed to?
We are telling ourselves that. I don't understand the question. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I guess who are
Madam
we?
Speaker,
Point of
Senator Horton, College of Education, the good senator did not ask permission for that.
That's true, you're out of order. I have Senator Willis.
Senator Willis, on campus caucus. Out of morbid curiosity, do you think that you're saying that you ran with will stand with you on this bill?
No, I don't think anyone is. That's the why I wrote it. Because it's kind of fun to be able to actually think for ourselves. I don't care about it.
Senator Adamek.
Senator Adams, campus caucus, I'm going to press very briefly.
Very, yeah.
I was there reviewing over there, with the aspect of IFC or the board. Personally, I was endorsed by the IFC, as well as NRTA. Do you think the fact that I have the IFC behind me, that is a whole other voting group, that is a big position, and since we're receiving the work, do you think that almost takes away from the other people that may not be in certain big IFC core groups like this?
I mean,
100%.
to an extent, yes, if you're the largest student organization, you are more in touch with other donor blocks. But if you were endorsed by traditions, you have people who've never even met you who are going to vote for you. You get that benefit that otherwise, that's how you're doing the hard work of being in the organization, meeting people, creating the repertoire where they see your name on the voter guide, but they still trust you. I think that is what is needed. You don't have the actual campaigning aspect of public service. They don't know who you are if you're just a name on the voter guide. If you actually work with the IFC, with the fraternity, these sorts, you've done the hard work. And I appreciate it.
Senator Dealey. Nope, you already went, right? Senator Patel. Chair Patel.
Chair Patel, Mr. Committee Affairs, what's to stop somebody like me who graduates in spring for running in Senate? Now I know that Senator Adams and Senator Sanders are also on, but I don't like them from making a slate saying vote for Eli Patel, Justin, which you might add next, and then leaving that to the commission to get them all wiped out.
Again, I'm gonna just rush through the commissioner, but again, yeah, the truth is that my organization has COVID.
Senator Babanco.
Senator Wonko, Bush School. Person to very briefly talk.
You got 20 seconds.
Chair, you were freshman senator 2 years ago. How have you and all of your time in Senate seen this personally affect people in this?
Oh,
Please wrap up in one sentence or less.
it is very negative, and as someone who's experienced, I think it's just make things hard.
With that, we thank him for his time. All right, we're still in a period of new business, and now we are going to move into the consideration of SA 7808, the No Tickets Act. Will the author please come to power? Elect. Oh, sorry, the Elect Act.
Chair Portland, rules and regs, howdy y'all. Is an occasion when you have not one, but a few commissioners come, talk about your legislation. And I think it's great. I love to see the process of government that these things. But something I'd like to preface this before we get into what this bill actually does is over the past couple of days, and throughout this process, what timeline on how this is going. This bill was first created last week. We had the rules and regulations committee work on it. We received input from different of the front letters for Senate Vice President next year. We talked to various senators, and then once the committee had a final draft of it, which was Sunday, we sent it to the election commission, which was before any other senator had received it that was not working on it and helping write it. So that's kind of how this goes. Since then, myself and I know various members of our committee have heard from different people about thoughts. And the thing with election related legislation is not everyone's going to like. And that's why within our legislative process, we have many things. The next thing will be the Rules and Regulations Committee meeting, which that date will be announced by Friday. I want all y'all to come there if you have a question. If you're unable to make it, please reach out to me. But there's many things I've been talking with exec about. I've talked with former SGA members about, former speakers, former chairs, and current members as well. And there's lots of things. And so I would like to try to address as many of those concerns as possible. But there's a greater chance than not they're going to be evaluated in the committee meeting, and they may not be in the final version of the bill. So now we're going to look at what this bill actually does. So if you can scroll down, a big thing we've heard from this is the opposite of what Chair Hurd has done. And it sets the guidelines for group campaign. In my opinion, group campaigning is something that exists. It's not something that's going to go away. It's very hard to not naturally gravitate towards others and see someone else who's awesome and cool and want to support them and they want to support them. That's something that's always going to exist. But we have the opportunity to set how that works. As it stands, there's nothing dictating how finances work, how budgets work, how violations are assessed, how these are. And so we are presented with two very different options tonight. And in the end, we'll probably see a moderate outcome between the two. But this one goes into the full-on regulation, so instead of legitimization. But I can say as someone who has been on both of the major tickets, that there are many benefits to tickets. And I've seen all around this how they're run and how guidelines can be set for them. And tickets are not something new. They weren't started by Luke Morrison or Brendan Hurd 2 years ago. You had Ben Fisher a long time ago. Back in 2016, you had a ticket, a like organization called the Good Old Pack of Divorce Education Senators who opposed student fees. So there's always been these organizations, at least, in the past 10 or so years, that have gone on and supported people. You can even look back in Italian work. I think I read one from early 2000s talking about how there's a group of pro-tradition senators who are elected together with the purpose of trying to restore bonafide. So there's a long history of this, and in my opinion, it's something that needs to be regulated. Now, the specifics of that, that will ultimately be left up to whatever this body decides. But outside of that, the next big thing this does is it looks at campaign time. So over the summer, I was at SBC. I heard from all how they do their elections, and they have timelines set out of how far back campaigns and candidates can announce their intent to run, how far they can start making posts, how far they can put out materials. And one of the things that I like the most, and that me and Esther and Valerie really talked about, was what Auburn does is for bannering, it happens election week. I know we've all been on the side where, battering students for their votes has helped us. But, if I was a student not involved, I wouldn't want to be badgered for a vote for 2 weeks. And so I think there's something to be said about maybe condensing that, and it also makes things easier to run. Continuing on that, we have where we talked about candidates authorizing the action of their support. This is something that's been contentious among some of the people I've talked to, but the idea behind this is that instead of presuming guilt for the actions, it gives a presumption of innocence for the candidates. There could very well be a bad actor who's trying to commit violations and help try to get this other candidate to get the violations and hurt themselves in the election, potentially get them. What I want is for that not to happen, where you don't have that. Sure, you could say this could be abused, but I think it's very fundamental, and at least my opinion, we presume guilt, and then if there's not guilt, we prove that afterwards. Continuing on, there's some things from you get their hardware acts, such as how guides are kind of changed, that's formatting. As well, we have sections about how the election commission would additionally be able to regulate online campaigning. That, in my opinion, has been something where I feel like the election commission needs a little more power to operate. And whenever you're unable to regulate, or I would say majority, if not a plurality of the campaigning happens, then that's an issue, regardless of whose side you're on. So that's good. Another thing I have is currently within the code, if people are out campaigning, they have a ban or something, if they block pedestrian traffic, that's not a violation. That's not a problem. There's nothing to stop that. I think that's something that should be added in. As well, we have more stuff from Senator Hargrove's act, such as not being allowed to campaign in the classroom without permission of the structure. No using amplified sound speakers, megaphones, in classroom buildings, regulating the use of AI, especially relating to deepfakes and misleading information. I think the last thing we want is anyone to have a deepfake of themselves, saying something they didn't do or something they don't endorse due to the fame. As well, there were some changes regarding timelines. Some of this had to do changing it from 3 class days from 72 hours. Effectively, that would mean that over the weekend, the filing can happen if it happens during the week, which that's something we can look at. As well, the time extending the violation reporting from 7 to 11:59 at the end of the day. If that presents itself to be a serious logistical challenge to the election commission, that's something we can look at. As well, we have increased code about where, you can't violate student privacy. You can't go out and get every single student's phone number and send them a mass text. Because a lot of people, like, how do they get my phone number and feel like my privacy is being violated? That's a problem. Another major thing that this changes is campaign budgets. So as it stands right now, there's not one senator in this room who spends $600. At least to my knowledge, there's not. I think a lot of people who spent 0. I think of those who spent money, there's about $250, $280. So this brings it back to
Please wrap up in 1 minute.
the changes for last year. If you have any other questions, please have any question and answer.
All right, with that, our presenter is now open for a 5-minute period of question answer. I need Pro Tem Tucker to help me here. I have Senator Burnside. The briefest, please.
Seeing the green flag, you expressed your concern. Do you believe this behavior is appropriate, especially as something that's in your consent?
Yeah, I certainly do believe with appropriate, especially when, although there's many things to be clarified, but I'm sure you would do the same thing. So the things that they're saying were either misunderstanding or inaccurate. And, if we're going to talk about making meaningful changes to the point of political statements, then but if that's what we decide to do, then let it be.
Please direct all of your questions to Pro Temp Patel. Why did I do that? Tucker. When she looks back at you and tells you to put your thing down, you're good. I have Senator Bavanko.
Senator Ramonko, Bush School, given your position as R&R chair, will you allow both this act and Brendan's no tickets act to move forward to a vote with the Senate?
It was the Rules and Regulation Committee's policy, in my policy, that the election act that came out was going to be our first budget. And so what we'd like to figure out is we'd like to have input. And if this, what Brendan's act was really something the senators want, I encourage you to come to committee meeting. And that's something we can add in. The whole point is to be efficient, and we have one piece of election related legislation that we can all mostly agree upon. And so if that answers your question, but there's procedures for even committees not to release it, they can discharge it from the committee.
This is very quickly back and forth.
No, not granted. I have Senator Wells.
Would that not allow a massive amount of money to be that would, and that's something we need to look at and address. But I don't know, someone could spend it. And the argument to be made for having no budget for something like this, where it's a larger budget, is let the free market. If it really works, you're spending $50,000 on a SGA election. I feel sorry for you, if that's what you decided to spend the money on. I'd suggest personally doing your bonds, but I'm not a financial advisor. But at this point, well, I don't know if it's that big of a problem, but that's something we can address looking at the.
Chair Patel.
Speaking to the affairs, do you think that, given that pooled budget system, say, an candidate might get 20, 30, even 60, 70 friends, like pool a massive 5-figure budget together, do people who have no intention of actually listening or get collected?
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility with it, and kind of idea behind having this budget for the continuation of all the individual budget is to not disadvantage people who decide to run. If I wanted to spend $300 and you wanted to spend $300 and both decided to run together, if we cut it back down to 300, that might be a disadvantage. That's something we can look at. We can further legislate that and regulate that. That's where we have these committee meetings, that's where we have these legislative processes. The Senate is a deliberative body and be sized on these things.
Sure, Kim.
Withdrawn.
Senator Hargrove.
Senator Hargrove, College of Education and Community Development. Why did you choose not to communicate about this act with the election commissioner when you were able to communicate with what you consider the front running from the student body president race? Past speakers, past SGA members, past senators, and current executive and Senate members.
Yeah, I'd love to answer that. So, regarding the FDP candidates.
State your motion.
Motion to move to extend my right 5 minutes.
That a motion has been made and seconded. It is undebatable and amendable as the timing will require a majority vote. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections to the motion? We will now move into a period of standing voting led by Pro Tem Tucker. Please rise if you are in favor of the motion to extend by 5 minutes. Yeah. All those opposed? I vote 39-1, this motion does pass. 5 minutes is added to the period of questioning.
Yeah, so, when I was digital candidate, back and forth, I just asked them for any input they had. Very similarly, I talked to the election commission back in September about the ideas as well. You were there at the Rules and Regulations Committee last week when we talked about elections and different ideas, specifically related to your house. And so, was a culmination. And so the election commissioner got before the vast majority of the student body. That's because that's when it was done. So when I asked the outside people, those ones who was already released, and they came and called me and asked about different things, and that's when we from that. So that was not necessarily a prior to that. But I would like to say that as long as there's been a final draft, the election commission. Permission to briefly ask.
Not granted. I have Senator Willis.
Senator Willis, on campus caucus. Briefly, how would you respond to everything that the election commissioner was saying earlier?
We have a way to work things out. We're going to talk soon with the election commissioner as well. If you have concerns in the committee meeting, there's a way of doing things. Changes are meant to be. And so expect them to be.
Senator. Yes.
U.S. Art and Sciences. I guess narrowing down Senator Hargrove's question, do you feel like you, as the chairman of the Rules and Regulations Committee and the committee, spend an appropriate and ample amount of time discussing these possible changes with the election commission?
I believe that what we're doing to now is part of that time. And, you know, I respect the opinion of Shelby very much. And I've incorporated many of the things she has asked into this. And so what I would say is, as long as there has been a piece to be done, the election commission has. And there's time for discussion, and we have 14 days before we vote on it. That's a long time to make changes, try to achieve the goal.
Senator Babanco,
Senator Babonko, Bush School, you mentioned that the R&R committee prefers to move forward with only one election bill. Given your statement, let the free market decide, how do you reconcile the approach with the committee's decision to limit what gets added to in and out of the tax?
So government free market.
To some extent.
All I'm saying is that has more to do with voters. Let the free market decide regarding this, let the legislators use the powers that we have. And if the free market decides, they'll discharge the piece from committee by two.
I have Chair Hurt. Briefly.
As someone who was elected on both good board and traditions. My question is, how do you feel like creating actual tickets and creating these privileges for those who run and operate?
You know, we've talked about this, it's a lot, at least in the past, we really talked about it, it's looking at this. And the question is, does the system work? Yes, the system works, but does it work in the most fair and true way? I don't believe so. I believe if you were just to let it continue as it is, there's lots of room for error for that actually to come about and this unregulated system to become more abused. This is an issue that I don't think is going to accelerate. I don't necessarily know if it's going to accelerate, but this has existed for a while, and we have the opportunity to make sure that we stay.
Not granted. Senator Owen.
All of that. Since we have like two controversial bills going on one side, the other one, do you think maybe we should just leave the system and decide? Maybe it's the one for the reason.
Yeah, you know, that's something I've heard for a lot of people. And whenever we go to committee meeting, that's a discussion point. Whether or not these chambers actually do need. And I'm at one side, other people are at the other side. And that's why we're here. We're here to disagree and decide what the majority of the people here think that this new funding wants, so we can be more representative of that. So there is a chance that there are no changes made.
All right, with that, we thank him for his time. State your point.
Directed to Jack Evil and Mo Bradley, were y'all informed of the election commissioner's allegations that she was not contacted about this bill prior to it being presented? Well, prior to like her getting it?
State your point.
I feel like this is not true.
I would agree, you're out of order. All right, with that, we thank you for his time. All right. Oh. Never mind. With that, we will now move into the consideration of essay 7809, the committees and commissions act. You will have 10 minutes beginning at Howdy.
Number 2, howdy, Chair Board.
Howdy.
So this commission and act, or this act, the Committees and Commissions Act, this has existed since April. I believe it was first started to be drafted around Easter. Both, granted, it's a combination of two bills. The commission's part was drafted around April. The committee's part was from the last session, which was written by Chair Morrison to remove ASB and items. The fourth thing to note about this has been around for a long time, and I've been working with the executive branch to figure out how we should best do this, when we should do this. And the important thing to remember is this is perceived. With Aggies and Mentors and ASB, these are organizations that are no longer in SGA. And we're changing the approach like that. Regarding the Representation Commission, how it functions right now within the executive bylaw is that the election commissioner is called the vice president of SGA. And what this is doing is to reflect what is going on currently, how the Representation Commission operates in the executive branch, reflect that into the code. This in no way is getting rid of the initiatives that the Representation Commission does. There's many great things. I believe last month they had the roundtable talk about pooling, which I think is great. But, you know, the purpose of commissions is to form a quasi-governmental action, is what our code says. And representation, that's what the government as a whole. And so I think it's a little redundant to have the commission do that too. I think it's much better served in a vice presidential position, just like we have our VP of student welfare, just like we have our VP of campus improvement, to work on these specific issues and address A&M students, to address Aggies, to best serve them, and really empower them and help better their college experience. So the idea that the Representation Commission in its function is going away is completely not true. I've talked with SPP Mallory before, and this is something that will continue. There will still be the vice president of representation committee, the same things with it. However, a benefit to them is that they would have access to the entire executive budget. So as opposed to right now, whereas their funding is subject to allocations of the student senate, the executive branch can allocate whatever funds they need depending their operations. And knowing the executive that we have, SPP Mallory, in my opinion, is a very good leader. And he's going to make sure that his people are taken care of. And that means that the Representation Commission will have what it needs. They've been able to operate with the money they've had. I believe that they will continue to receive that money through the programming budget in the executive branch. However, I'm not speaking on behalf of the executive. I don't have that authority. I don't have that knowledge. But the important thing to remember as we look at this is the change, it's only in words. Effectively, how student government works right now will remain the exact same after this bill, after this act is done. With that, I'm now open to your questions.
All right, please direct your questions to Pro Tem Tucker. We're now open for a 5-minute period of question and answer. I see Senator Hargrove.
Senator Hargrove, College of Education and Human Development, on the topic of Representation Commission and financial support. Would you agree that the commission's current structure provides the strongest model for financial support? Right now, the commission can utilize funding from both the executive branch and from the Senate. And if they were to be reclassified as a committee, they would rely solely on the executive funding, which would reduce the available resources for them to create smaller.
Point of order.
Say your point.
Chair Patel, Superintendent Ferris, ask permission to press.
That is so true.
Madam Speaker, I was being questioned.
Say briefly, so you're out of order. Okay, I have Senator Wells.
Committee was given $21,000 or so previously allocated. Does not that not mean that they have no guarantee that they will get a certain sum of money or will change every single year, like the student ones?
Well, you know, that the thing about the executive branch is the executive branch serves at the will of the student body president. That's how it works. The student body president can add people in. If he doesn't like the job they're doing, they can remove, he or she can remove them. And ultimately, that part doesn't change. If you'd like to change something about that, that's entirely this piece of legislation. But I know currently the commission will still receive the support it needs to continue service.
Senator Yost?
Senator Yost, Arts and Sciences, I guess building off of that question, do you not see a problem, I guess, basing the funding on this commission around just the current opinions of the current executive administration?
I mean, the executive can do as it pleases, but the Senate always has the ability. And if what happens is that that's not going on, Senate wishes. But I know the characters, I know that if they're going to put a person in office with a job and do something, that means they believe they're going to do it, and they're going to do it well, and they're going to. I know when I see people that I put in position, I want them, I'm gonna help them. And so I just don't know if that's an issue. If it is, break it.
Permission to back and forth with people.
Not granted. Senator Babanco?
Senator Mongo was told by, as he said, making this a vice president position. Does this not guarantee that the work will be done as vice president positions come and go based off of the supervisor president?
So, same thing could be said about how the commission works now.
Under Harvard College of Education Human Development, I move to extend the period of functioning as vice president.
The amount of motion has been made and seconded. It is undebatable and amends the last six time and will require a majority vote. We will see a general consent. Do I see any objections to the motion? Seeing none, this motion does pass.
Vice presidents also have vice presidential committee. So I believe the number earlier, there's 21 people on the commission. Those people would all be on the vice presidential committee. They'll still be able to do the same work that they're doing now. Example of this, which you can look at, Joy Pritch's group, where she has a chief of dining, she has a chief of athletics, and they're working to carry out these specific actions on the vice president. And the commission and vice presidential committee is very similar to how they function. The difference is instead of it being a vice president.
Senator Hargrove?
In the Harvard College of Education and Human Development, we just changed, why are we only changing the representation commission when we also have vice president of legislative relations, vice president of development, who also run the discussion?
That's true. This is what the executive branch has asked that happen. With this, there were originally things relating to those two that in the very first part, those were changed to just two positions. I do not fully remember the rationale that was given by exec, but it ended up where representation would be the one changed into vice president because they believe that's their position there. As well, that's just more where that kind of role came on. It doesn't necessarily perform a quasi-governmental service like the election commission does, regulating elections. They're like the legislative relations committee does with intergovernmental affairs. So it's just more similar to what a vice president currently does. And so that's
Permission to briefly follow.
Not granted. I have. I have to. Chair Hurts.
LR, have you been to any of the representation commission's events to see what they do to be able to make it understand why we should make it a commitment?
I went to their town hall.
Okay. Senator Von Wupperfeld? Granted.
So I think I'm kind of failing to see the point here, and that might be the, this seems like it's functioning great as is. What in a very simple term is the point of transitioning this to a SPP, not non-guaranteed commission versus having a guaranteed given out right now?
You know, it's kind of like having, apple tree. The apple tree belongs where the apples are. And in that case, this is the apple trees. That belongs to other apple trees.
Senator Willis?
Senator Willis on campus caucus, how, do you know how this would affect the disability submission?
There could still be a issue over, disability related stuff, and there still be the staff members there. The vice presidential committees would have that, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I think they're either vice presidential subcommittee, at least it. So functionally, the same.
Senator Hargrove?
Senator, College of Education and Community Development, does Mr. Ramirez not serve as vice president representation?
He serves in both the vice president representation and by statute, the commissioner of education.
So yes.
Senator Burnside?
Yeah, you're exactly right. The purpose of state government as a whole is establishing.
Senator? Yes. Chair Hurd?
All our operation types on.
Briefly, yes.
To extend a little bit more on some years. Like, would that not be the fact that ADA and all those things, just like the subcommittee would not be guaranteed for the next?
No, there's very few here in the things get things change all the time. We can't control who's in, who's out, what they do, and they're still, that's still a great separate from themselves, even if they are engaged.
Please wrap up in 1 minute or less. Great, with that, we thank him for his time. And moving into a period of open session, the floor is now open for motion to exceed any motion.
I move to close open session.
Guys, seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, let me find what I'm supposed to say. Oh, seeing that a motion has been made and seconded, it is debatable and amendable and will require a majority vote. We will begin with the first round of debate for this motion. Do I see any debate for this? Seeing none, we will now move into the first round of debate against this motion. Do I see any debate against this motion? Seeing none, we will now move into the second round of debate for this motion. Do I see any debate for this motion? Seeing none, we will now move into the second round of debate against this motion. Do I see any debate against this? Seeing none is the opinion of the chair that debate has become one-sided. We will now move into a period of voting on this motion. We will attempt to do this via general consent. Do I see any objections to the motion to close the floor? Seeing none, this motion does pass. With that, we'll now move into a period of committee reports, beginning with Pro Temp Tucker. Do I see any questions for Pro Temp Tucker? I see Chair. No, Horton. Sorry.
Chair Horton, Rules and Regs. Pro Temp Tucker, do you have any updates for us?
I do. First of all, Theta got second, in office, and making $1,000 for, philanthropies, but now more so related to Senate. If you guys have questions about attendance or anything of that sort, guess what? You guys all have access to see how many Senate, absences you have, what's been excused, what's been unexcused in the 78th session folder. So I don't want to be bombarded with a bunch of emails asking what your absences are, because you guys can figure that out for yourself, because I spend a lot of time figuring it out for you. So please, if you guys go to the 78th session, go to resources, and then in there's attendances, and you can see in the attendance records what your absences are. It's all right there for you. Let me reemphasize that. If you are worried about your absences, don't know how much you have, and are worried if you guys are maybe in violation of the code, you've already been emailed, but if you're worried that you might be soon, please go and check for attendances. Thank you.
Awesome. Do I see any other questions for the Pro Temps? Nope. Seeing none, we thank her for her time. With that, we'll move into our rules and regulations. Chair, do I see any questions for Chair Horton? Seeing none, we thank him for his time. With that, we'll move into the student services chair. Do I see any questions for Chair Chu? Seeing none, we thank him for his time. With that, we will move into the finance chair. Do I see any questions for Chair Wright? Seeing none, we will now move into the community relations chair. Do I see any questions for Chair Williams? Seeing none, we will now move into the legislative relations chair. Do I see any questions for Chair Hurd? I see Senator Clark.
We are doing our Aggie Citizens Summit, as I mentioned, Citizenship Summit, that'll be on President's Day next year, so very excited for that. But on top of that, we want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the news. The government shutdown should be in. Research should be permitted, and hopefully it's going on in the that it knows when there's problems with sound, or it's not to be totally fixed. So with that, yeah, that's all that they need that is.
Any other questions for the chair? Seeing none, we thank him for his time. Academic affairs chair, do I see any questions for Chair Kim? I see Chair Patel.
Chairman Patel, Efficiency Affairs, do you have any updates for particularly maybe about debate with Albright? Yes, I do. Unfortunately, not great news. I don't know how many people know about this. However, the after some meetings with the Academic Operations Committee, currently the draft for the academic calendar for the next academic year does not include fall break. And even worse, it does not give us the full Thanksgiving break. Our Academic Affairs Committee will be working on this actively as much as we possibly can. I would like to help with every senator who is willing to. And I know IA is probably requesting some support from them as well, along with our partners from the executive, because quite frankly, this is a bad deal for the students.
Oh boy. That was a tie, but I'm gonna go with Senator Wells.
Well, curiosity, where are the other days going that they're picked off it, that they're taking away everything? Gone.
Senator Babanco.
What can we do and how can we mobilize the rest of the students? Because obviously this is a big deal and fall break is one of the biggest things in Senate has previously accomplished.
Yeah, so it's slightly complicated, just because it's so multifaceted, but from the conversations I was able to have so far, part of it is comparing, how other universities, and especially the SEC, handles it, and other major universities in the country. We'll compare that, put together a case with that. We also discussed potential surveys, that'll be on IA and the student senate potentially approved, that we can get feedback from the student body, and if we do a survey, we would like to really animate our constituents so as many people would get back as possible. And really there'll be some legislative work that's gonna kind of be figured out with our committee soon, hopefully. Another part is just obviously with the legislation, proper legislation and opinions from the student leadership, that can be taken to the meetings with the administration. Such meetings with the academic affairs or academic operations committee, with all the deans, all the advisors, or most of the advisors, and the provost meeting. And he's the top dog of that. So we'll try everything we can, and more to come. We all have a flair, reach out. Hopefully together we can reverse this fortunate circumstance.
You can let us know what we can do.
Senator Bizzoni.
I was college engineering, checked in, what is the timeline like on this? How long do we have until that, the calendar is published?
So I'm gonna be very big asterisks on this because this isn't, I don't have this written down in front of me at the moment. However, if I can recall, we will have to take action hopefully this semester. We have to initiate action this semester. It can, in theory, be amended all the way up to, somebody please correct me, March, I believe. If mid-March it can be corrected, however, it's much more difficult then. The basing this off of, something that was told by the office of provost, where if there's a necessity, you can always, and however, Texas A&M, many great things. Agility is not one of our strengths. It's just not. So we're really gonna have to fast on this. I understand I brought this up in the last committee meeting, but I didn't, right, there's been more, I've looked into it. And that will be sent out soon.
Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders, however, for this, in all of this, right, so I feel a lot of students saying they're really on this.
Now it can, because it's been, or in my view, I'm 99% sure it can, just because in that official meeting with the academic operations committee, which is fully transcribed, the agenda is fully laid out. And I'll have to take meeting notes on all of them. The academic affairs vice president is also present on that meeting. I believe it will be appropriate to bring that to the student body. Now, before then, it was tentative, especially with what was, maybe they were just gonna do it for us. We have some professors behind this as well, for us to get regarding what's gonna be that. But we really need to build that case, and I'm happy to discuss it with you.
Senator Willis.
Senator Willis, Point Campus Scholars, to be clear. Is our goal now to get those days added after Thanksgiving break or to keep fall break in the first place?
I would find it very, very unlikely that they would reverse track on fall break like that. There's some concerns, even from the student side, about having such a long break, like a spring break size break in fall and coming back from the final. However, the consensus from the student leaders I've been with that conversation with is that the current situation of moving fall break and nothing else, and just taking away those 2 days, you don't even get veterans day off, right? So I'm a senior military talking about. So if you would like anything, but I think the most likely thing would be to extend Thanksgiving break. I am almost certain that we have SDC partners and make sure they talk about colleges. I think Ohio State might be one that does the full Thanksgiving break. Additionally, it also helps out of state students go back home.
Any other questions? No. Seeing none, we thank him for his comment. Fabulous constituency affairs. Chair, do I see any questions for Chair Patel? Seeing none, we thank him for his time. Okay, on. Okay, with that, we will now move into the traditions and culture. Chair, do I see any questions for Chair Tate? Oh, yeah, I see Chair Hurd.
Chair Hurd, what's going on here? We had a lot of updates with the last fall of it. Last week we went so well, and now we're gonna be helping the feel well-being with the health week next semester. You can see my report for more details, but we will also be going to Bonfire Remembrance. If you'd like to come join us, please call or text me if you want to sit. My committee shout out of the week is Senator Lambert, did an excellent job with his Silver House resolution and reading on the floor. We also worked with Bob Seaver really, and making sure that they had great sponsors for that. Other shout outs are all the people that went to build, sponsored the resolution about volunteering to build, so I love to see the initiative there. That's all.
All right, any other questions for the Chair? Seeing none, we thank her for her time. With that, we will now move into the Executive Director of Operations. Do I see any questions for EDO Troyer? I see Pro Tem Tucker. Pro Tem Tucker, do you have any? Yes, so to piggyback off of you, Songfest as a whole raised over $321,000 for 28 philanthropies, so.
Wow.
Anyways, I just want to put this on your radars now. We're planning on December 4th, 5th, 8th, and 9th to be Speaks with Senators. We're going to schedule it kind of right before finals. We're going to do like energy drinks, snacks, fun things to get people to come in. If you table for 2 hours, this will remove an absence. So we would love to see you all there. I just want to put that on your radar now. Any other questions? I see Senator Ramonko.
Senator Ramonko, first of all, now that we have all of our officials, by the way, welcome. What do you hope to accomplish?
Great question. So, so far they have been placed on their respective committees and they had their first committee meetings this past week. I have sent action sheets to all the chairs that have fish aids, just with expectations for them throughout the year. Just to use the fish aids well and to value their time and also teach them a lot about Senate. I think this is one of the coolest ways we have to bring in new members and to hopefully retain them in coming years. So, just using them well, and I asked it if y'all see fit. I would love for y'all to meet them. They're really awesome. All of them are, and really kind people. So I would love for y'all to meet them and help get them more involved in Senate.
Any other questions for the EDO? Seeing none, we thank her for her time.
I will now move into a period of executive reports. We'll begin with the Chief Justice.
Howdy. Hey. Background doing well, have a good night. From the judicial court side of things, not a lot really going on, to be honest. So there's a lot going on, but nothing affecting us. Yeah. On a side note, so we have vacancies opening up soon. We're losing a member of the court who's graduating this semester. So doing the math here, that would drop us down to 6. So we would have 3 open vacancies. So, if you have anyone that would, that would be interested in that role, anyone, start telling them to get their judicial philosophy in check, all right? On a side note, kind of a tangent related to that, if anyone knows how to get into the J-Court website, please also let me know about that. I've sent like 4 IT tickets in, I've gotten nothing back, but once that opens, the application will go live. So really don't want to take up too much of y'all's time right now, but that's everything from the judicial court.
Do I see any questions for the Chief Justice? Very good. Thank you for his time. With that, I will cede my chairship to Pro Tem Tucker. What's the thing? Questions for her. Presentation begins now. How do you say it? We only have 1 more meeting left this semester. Please feel free to do things today. I won't be here. It'll be on December 3rd. Same time to say, please. We also see considers coming up. I really encourage you to be a part of this. We will be tabling at places that are very high traffic on campus, especially during time of school, things like libraries, DAC, MSC, places like that. And the shades are working really hard to get that done for us. The best way that we can represent the student senate is to have as many people there as possible. So please be there. And a reminder that you have 2 hours you can make an absence. And I know some of us are looking for ways to make up those absences. We will also begin the vacancy process. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of senators absent out recently, and we are not fully representative of the student body as we sit here now. So the best way to become fully represented is to go through the vacancy process. If you know anyone interested in the Senate, now's a great time to join the fully run a campaign. So please encourage your friends to join. Try to pick some people that care about the student government and what we're doing here. And yeah, I think that's all I have. Oh, so bonfire remembrance, please.
The speaker is now open for a period of question and answer. Do I see, Senator Adamick?
Senator Adamick, off campus caucus, with the semester winding down and kind of going over its career final of the Christmas season. Does the Senate have any plans to do anything fun like Christmas Eve, like at the Senate, like at the dinner? Maybe like bring like fuzzy sweaters for the final meeting.
We're gonna do a fun little surprise before Senate that I'm going to figure out. And then we have maybe like Christmas PJs or funny sweater five. Yeah, so maybe we'll do best. Oh, maybe we'll do best dressed. Maybe we'll do a best dressed competition too. On another note, I have been informed of another Christmas. We have the City of College Station Parade on December 7th, and we're going to participate in that. Be looking for more information from Carol Williams on that. We're going to do a star. We have the opportunity to maybe do a tab at Starbucks sometime before the end of the day. Do I see Karen Hurd?
Here, Horton. Here, Horton, rules and regulations. Have you heard the Marcel Reed chants that are going around the world?
Chills.
I have shit bills.
Second that, I agree. Kills. Thank you for that. I see Senator Owen.
What are you most looking forward to these next few final, or if not final, public option?
Oh my gosh, well, I hope the Avs win every game we have left by now, for sure. I got both season and I'm praying to go to playoffs and win national championship. Senator Willis.
Senator Willis, Mon Kitty's caucus, did you and President Fort Tucker intentionally coordinate?
Yeah.
Do I see any further questions for Speaker Jusino? Seeing none, we thank her for her time.
Guys, I have a minute. The SVP is here to deliver his executive report. We're just gonna move back in the agenda real quick, because I know you want to hear from him. You're good. Go ahead.
All right, working away. So I'm gonna run through some of the initiatives that we have been working on, just to fill you all in on where we're at. So first one, ticket pool. We've got a survey started on that. That's gonna be going out from December 1st through the 10th or 11th. Before the first day of finals, making sure that we're actually getting data on that, so we can come back to the 12-man foundation with whatever we get and actually inform their decisions for the next semester. Next one, digital IDs. They will be here in May of 26. So grateful that's the case. The goal is to start the next NSC for the summer at no physical cards. So all the students that come in for their NSC for class of 30, ridiculous, are going to have digital IDs. So excited for that. Right now, get involved is something we're working on as a top staff and cabinet as well. Maddie Taylor has had a lot of conversations as my chief of student engagement on trying to make sure that Dr. Dobianski, as well as the BPSA office as a whole, is actually staying informed on what is going on with Get Involved and what the issues are. I know that's been a conversation as well from a bunch of senators, but from the exec side, that's the conversations we've been having. On the presidential selection for the university, we've had our first meeting. I'm gonna let y'all know more about that if y'all want to ask questions, but as of right now, there's not some front runner candidate, even though that's conversation that I've gotten a lot of questions about. We don't have some front runner candidate for that. And the process is gonna take as long as it takes to ensure we have the right person. So that's about all I've got right now. But y'all.
So MassDP is now open for a period of questions. Do I see any questions? I see Senator Rubal.
Senator Falco, but could you talk more about the presidency,
Yeah, sure. So I've got to sit in on one meeting for that. There's a search firm currently working on selecting candidates. And then conversation about that later on is going to include us, but as of right now, they're searching and we're waiting after we've already had discussions about what we're doing.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we thank him for his time. We have now move into a period of closing roll call led by Pro Tem Tucker.
Please say how do you want to say your name? Thanksgiving Mallory. Chief Justice Grayfield.
Howdy.
Speaker Jusino.
Howdy.
Chair Horton.
Howdy.
Chair Wright. Chair Dan.
Howdy.
Chair Williams. Chair Chu.
Howdy.
Chair Bertel.
Howdy.
Chair Hurt.
Howdy.
Chair T. Senator Khan. Senator Owens.
Howdy.
Senator Smith.
Howdy.
Senator Allen. Senator Jackson. Senator Attaway. Senator Healy.
Howdy.
Senator Richard.
Howdy.
Senator Schmidt. Senator Austin Williams.
Howdy.
Senator Yost.
Howdy.
Senator Sanders.
Howdy.
Senator Vivanco. Howdy. Senator Landons. Howdy. Senator Smith. Senator Westlake. Senator Williams. Senator Tyler Long. Senator Graham. Senator Alvarez. Senator Burnside. Howdy. Senator Hughes.
Howdy. Senator Willis,
Howdy.
Senator Wonderfeld,
Howdy.
Senator Batten. Howdy. Senator Adamek,
Howdy.
Senator Becker, Senator Brown, Senator Clark. Howdy. Senator Flainer, Senator Flores. Howdy. Senator Garcia. Howdy. Senator Glover, Senator Hall, Senator Hicks. Howdy. Senator Mooney, Senator Kaiser, Senator Murray, Senator Petzik, Senator Poe, Senator Sanchez, Senator Steele, Senator Hargrove,
Howdy.
Senator Maynard, Senator Petoni,
Howdy.
Senator Bradley.
Howdy.
Senator Cho, Dow,
Howdy.
Senator Medvedev,
Howdy.
Senator Shuck, Senator Wells,
Howdy.
Senator Wu,
Howdy.
Senator Vanderheiden, Senator Wilkins, Senator Fortner, Senator Knott,
Howdy.
Senator Lambert,
Howdy.
Senator Evil,
Howdy.
Senator Lemasters,
Howdy.
Bishop Eck, Bishop Mendez, Howdy, Bishop Morrison, Howdy, Bishop Smith,
Howdy.
Bishop Strobel.
Howdy.
All right, reminder to push your chairs in when you guys leave. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Yay! Praise God. Yep, I'm out. I know, we got a great going. What the hell? Oh, no, we didn't get them.
Hey, you doing? We're just wrapping up the staff meeting, I can meet at that time. Where you guys gonna meet? Okay, so yeah, I'll watch that video. Okay.